I died taking a bullet from my comrade. Back on the border, I was elite special forces, the absolute best, but I didn't stay dead. I somehow woke up in a completely different world, some ancient kingdom called Zhou. Now, I am in the body of a hunter, also named Liu Zhu, living in Wuchuan, a pretty rough border town. Suddenly, some soldiers just barged into my house, roughly shaking me awake. Get this, they said the emperor was giving away wives, women who committed crimes, sent down here as a reward for us, single guys on the cold frontier. I played nice, calling them officers, even though they were just low-level grunts. One guard even tossed me some bread for the compliment. Wuchuan is a pretty lawless place, full of exiled convicts, with frontier soldiers all thrown together. In this place, the law means absolutely nothing. Only raw strength matters to anyone. For most, it is a nightmare. But for me, I felt right at home. They marched all of us to the market square, where a massive platform was set up. Dozens of women stood lined up on it, mostly tough, weathered women, with strong, sturdy builds. They all looked pretty terrified of their future. But look, one girl caught my eye immediately. She was completely different from all the others. Pale skin and a pretty face, her hair tied up in a simple, hot ponytail that gently swayed in the wind. She looked like a gorgeous campus beauty from my past life. Then, the local commander, Zhou Taishan, announced the grim rules. Every single man picks a wife today. But here is the catch. If she doesn't have a kid within 1 year, both husband and wife get demoted to slaves. And slaves in Wuchuan live worse than wild animals. They only do the hardest labor. And when the enemy army finally attacks, these poor slaves were thrown to the front lines like cannon fodder. It changed everything. Every guy scrambled to pick the largest, most robust woman in sight. Looks didn't matter. A powerful build and wide hips meant she could probably bear healthy kids. Even the older ladies got snatched up pretty quickly. But that cute girl with the ponytail? No one wanted her because she was too thin, way too delicate. My neighbor, Wolawara, laughed right in my face, daring me to marry her. He even offered 100 copper coins as a wedding gift if I actually did it. Upping the bet, laughing loud. She heard everything. I could see absolute shame burning across her face. Yet she proudly held her head high, completely refusing to cry. I didn't know her story yet, but you could tell she had serious pride. Real pride, the kind that never breaks. In that brief second, our eyes actually met. I honestly don't know what she saw in mine. She looked stunned, like she really wasn't expecting that look. That slave platform was almost empty. The gruff commander spat on the dirt and barked at me to hurry up and choose a robust female. But I made my decision. Pointing at her, I announced she was the one. On our way home, my new wife Yushi was totally baffled by me. First off, I was standing up for her like a noble hero, and the next, cursing like some dirty street thug. She just didn't realize yet that both of those crazy sides are just me. Honestly, I was in a fantastic mood. In my past life, I had absolutely zero luck with the ladies. My entire youth was spent locked in the military, surrounded by sweaty, rough dudes. Once, they dragged me to a local dance party, but I stomped on a girl's foot so incredibly hard, it ended instantly. Yet here I was with a wife, skipping right past all the dating drama. I quietly hummed an old pop song from my past life, some song about a good man, never letting his lady get hurt. Looking down, though, Yushi was staring up at me with teary eyes. I panicked, thinking my singing was just that terrible, but she actually really liked it. She even asked if I wrote it myself. I just told her I hummed whatever crossed my mind. Hearing that seemed to ease her tension. She even gently leaned her head against my arm. But then, get this, I stopped at a shop, and I ordered 2 pounds of their strongest alcohol. Instantly, a flash of pure terror crossed her face. She had heard stories about border men, how they drank and beat their wives. I felt awful, but I seriously needed this liquor for something crucial. Next, I spent almost all our gift money at the market, buying garlic, wild fruit, coarse salt, sugar, a clay pot, 20 pounds of millet, and a sharp knife. Fresh produce actually costs way more than meat out here, especially in freezing winter. But I urgently needed these supplies. Soon, we arrived back at my place in Quishan village, located south of the city walls. It was pretty run down. Just a broken-down shack featuring a bed made of dried grass. I pulled out the only decent piece of cloth I owned, and carefully laid it down as a clean sheet for her. Now watch this. She's staring at the flatbread on the table. She was swallowing hard, but she was too polite to grab it. When I told her to eat, she carefully broke off a small piece, putting the rest back while quietly telling me I should eat too. After carrying her all day, that totally stunned me. No woman had ever actually cared about me before. I grabbed the rest, swallowing it down in 3 bites. Once she felt safe, and realized I was not going to boss her around, she devoured her piece like she had not eaten in days, not even caring when her own hair got in her mouth. She told me her name was Song Yushi, and asked what she should call me. I told her she is my official wife, so calling me husband is fine. She smiled pretty wide and called me Shangon. Hearing that actually melted my heart. I spent years as a ruthless, cold-hearted soldier, but I'm still a man. For the first time in this new world, I actually had someone to look after. Girls back in this era are incredibly simple. Seriously, just some flatbread and they completely warm up. My old comrades back in modern times always whine about taking girls out shopping, buying endless gifts. Lipstick shades sounded pretty exhausting. Anyway, I got to work crushing some garlic, boiled the liquor to get high-proof alcohol. Then I held the knife over the fire to sterilize it. Yushi asked what I was doing, fixing your leg, I replied. She looked completely shocked. You know medicine, don't you believe me? I trust you, because you told all of Wuchuan that I'm your woman. She smiled, quite proud of that memory. I rolled up her pant leg and warned her directly. This would hurt like hell, and there was no anesthetic, so she should bite on something or just scream. She nodded nervously. I began slicing away the dead, decayed flesh, using the hot knife. The second the blade touched skin, she flinched, so I reached to grab a stick for her to bite. But she grabbed my arm and sank her teeth deep into it. Now we were both in absolute agony. I moved fast, cutting out the infected tissue, squeezing out all the pus. This kind of battlefield surgery was routine for me. Took less than a minute. Then, I grabbed the concentrated alcohol and gave her a warning look to brace herself. She nodded, and I poured it over the wound. Even though she braced herself, her whole body shuddered as she screamed out. I pinned her down so she wouldn't mess up the wound. Neighbors heard all the screaming and began shouting angry curses right through our walls, thinking we were up to something completely different, calling us shameless, but we ignored every single word. By the time I finished, Yushi was covered in cold sweat, her red eyes trembling. She looked up at me and quietly asked, "Is it done?" "Almost, there is more. I cannot take any more." Look at her. She is literally like a scared little deer. And I just could not help laughing. I still have to bandage your wound, though. She whispers to go ahead, but grabbing her leg again, she flinches. Her entire body was highly sensitive after all that agony. I searched around the dim room for something clean to wrap her leg with, but the only cloth around was the filthy bed sheet under her body, so I asked for something clean. Blushing deeply, she pulled out a piece of fine white silk hidden inside her clothes. It was a handkerchief hand-woven by her own mother. I could easily tell it was meant for something special, a wedding night keepsake, but I grabbed it anyway, giving it a quick sniff to check if it was clean, and began wrapping her leg. Honestly, she looks both embarrassed and totally happy right now. I boiled the silk in hot water first, wrung it out, then bandaged her wound properly. Next, I had to get started on the garlic extract. I originally thought about trying to cultivate penicillin, but that takes way too long in these filthy conditions. I would probably end up growing toxic mold instead. So I went with the safest option available, allicin from garlic, a natural antibiotic, and incredibly easy for the body to absorb. The whole process took about 2 hours. I had to break down the garlic enzymes at roughly 50 degrees, mixing it with distilled alcohol from the local liquor, heating it further to filter out any impurities. I was working with basic pots and bowls, using whatever I could find, and every single time something went right, I could not help cheering and flashing Yushi a big victory sign. She had absolutely no idea what my gesture meant, but she watched everything with wide, curious eyes. I gently rubbed some of the extract onto her wound. Then, scooping up a spoonful, I told her to drink. She swallowed it down without hesitation. "Aren't you afraid I just brewed up some poison?" I joked. She smiled softly. I've never seen anyone brew deadly poison right in front of their intended victim. We both laughed, then suddenly fell quiet. Our eyes locked, to lonely souls in a broken world, and something instantly sparked between us. I leaned in slowly as she closed her eyes. Her eyelashes trembled as I kissed her. Just a soft, light kiss. "Your leg will heal up completely before long," I promised. She threw her arms around my waist, beaming. "Really? You're so good to me. I do not even know how to thank you." Holding her close, I gently stroked her back. Thanking me is quite easy. Just make sure I don't end up in the slave ranks. After 1 year, she buried her face against my chest. Blushing red, she gave a soft murmur as her answer. We stayed like that for quite a while, leaning quietly against each other, listening closely to each other's heartbeat. I felt a quiet peace I'd never experienced before. And up close, I realized she wasn't nearly as thin as she looked. Beneath those loose robes, she actually had real curves. But that peaceful moment didn't last. A freezing gust of wind whipped right through the house, and Yushi began shivering quite badly. Her leg infection made her weak, and the cold hit hard. Looking around, we literally had absolutely nothing. No warm blankets, no bedding. Everything I owned was already on my body. Even sleeping on that flea-infested straw bed was pure torture. Even though I'm completely used to roughing it in the wild, for someone like Yushi, it was completely unbearable. It was the dead of winter on that farm in Wuchuan. Up north, the heavy snow outside was piled incredibly thick. Then, it finally clicked. Poverty and biting cold always go together. Winter truly kills the poor. Even back in the 21st century, that stayed true. Survival was everything. Now get this. This body's previous owner was a hunter, leaving behind a highly durable weapon. Buffalo horn bow hanging on the wall. I slipped off my worn cotton coat, draped it over Yushi, then left the hunting knife with her. Rest here, I told her. I'm hunting. But wait. She reached deep into her robe and pulled out a gold hairpin. Beautifully made, she pressed it into my palm. She said she left Huaishua City yesterday. The mountain paths are buried in snow. Plus, dangerous wolves and tigers could be lurking. Please, pawn this hairpin first. You can hunt once the weather clears up. Refusing was impossible when looking at those determined eyes. So I took the pin, holding it tight. Yushi, I'm so sorry. You just married me. Yet I'm making you pawn your dowry. Gently, she brushed the dust off my shoulders. You are my husband. I know our life will only get better. This little bit of money means nothing. Even my mother would tell me to do this, if she were still alive today. You're incredible. Emotion swelled in my chest, and I kissed her again. We held each other close for a long time, before I finally stepped back. Come home early, I'll be waiting. So we can eat together, she said. I will. I stepped outside, feeling completely indebted to her. We never even had a proper wedding. Yet here she was, sacrificing her last keepsake just to feed us. Seriously, how could any guy ever let her down? I safely tucked the hairpin inside my coat, slung the bow and some arrows over my shoulder, grabbed some rope, and made my way south to Eagle Mountain. But wild game was getting pretty scarce. In fact, that is how the original Luta starved. Still, I had to try because our 20 pounds of millet would only last about 7 days. With my appetite and without any real meat, I would burn through those supplies instantly. Sitting around watching food run out is the worst. I had to take charge. When it comes to getting stuff done, I was always the very best in any world. That is how I became the youngest soldier king. Right outside the village, I ran into a bunch of women gossiping under a tree. The ultimate village gossip network. They knew everyone's business and instantly spotted me. Their eyes lit up. Hey Ludu, we heard you married a quite pretty wife. Why don't you bring her out here, so us aunties can take a good look? Calling her pretty, understatement. She is fair-skinned like a wealthy nobleman's daughter. Her skin is so soft you could literally squeeze water from it. But then Auntie Zhao, that incredibly sharp-tongued woman, sneered while saying she is just a cripple. Hearing Auntie Zhao call my wife a cripple. But honestly, I snapped. I drew my bow and aimed an arrow right between her eyes. She screamed, falling backward onto the ground terrified. Instant and absolute silence. I warned them all in a freezing voice. If anyone ever insults my wife again, I will put them in the ground. They nodded frantically, way too terrified to speak. Only Andy-kun, my neighbor, stayed calm. She kindly offered to watch over Yushi while I was away, and warned me to stay extremely safe in the mountains. I thanked her deeply and set off. It took me nearly half an hour to reach Eagle Mountain. Footprints were scattered everywhere in the snow near the base. Other local hunters had already picked this place clean. I had to venture deeper as the snow grew thicker with every single step, sinking to my shins. Pretty lucky though. I was still wearing those tough deerskin boots my mother crafted for me 2 years ago. Otherwise, my feet would have frozen solid. So I slice off 2 chunks of tough bark and secure them tightly under my boots, using some rope to distribute my weight. These makeshift snowshoes even let me slide downhill. That really sped up my journey a lot, since I was completely alone. I decided to test my accuracy with the horn bow. This thing felt way heavier than any compound bow from my past life. Even with my boosted strength, pulling it back fully was pretty tough. My very first shot, at 30 meters, was off by about 2 centimeters. Not quite good enough, so I kept firing, gathering my arrows and taking shot after shot. But by the 30th arrow, I was striking a tree trunk from 50 meters, missing by less than 1 single centimeter. Now that's acceptable, so I searched for water. Where there's water, there's usually game. After trekking for another quiet half hour, I stumbled upon a hot spring deep within the mountains, and standing right there by the water's edge was a deer. A massive male elk. My heart raced. Honestly, a beast like that is a literal goldmine. Fresh meat, antlers, and warm blood to help Yoshi recover, plus thick hide to make cozy clothes, to easily get us through this winter. I slowly crawled through the thick trees into position, making myself completely invisible to the cautious deer. It stood perfectly still, watching for 5 whole minutes, before it finally lowered its head to take a drink. But I stayed dead still. Experience teaches you that the exact moment of greatest vulnerability hits right after satisfaction, so I patiently waited for it to finish. When it finally lifted its head, I slipped off my glove, carefully read the wind, calculated the distance, and in one sharp breath, stood and drew. Released. The arrow punched clean through its skull from 35 meters, bolting another dozen meters on nothing but pure instinct, before face planting into the snow. Letting out one last cry, I rushed over and slit its throat to end the pain. This massive elk easily weighed 200 pounds. Far too much meat for us. I could easily sell the rest in town. But just as I reached for the arrow in its skull, every single battlefield survival instinct I had screamed at me. I threw myself 5 centimeters left. An arrow meant for my skull. Talk about a close call. It whizzed past and buried itself in the snow. I hit the freezing ground, rolling in a zigzag pattern to find the nearest tree. Judging by the angle of that shot, I immediately located where the shooter was. Whoever was shooting had been waiting here before me, lying in wait, just waiting to kill me and steal my haul. But they made a massive mistake. The moment they tried repositioning through the thick woods, the heavy snow dragged them down. Thanks to my bark snowshoes, I was way faster. I spotted my clean opening. Drawing back, I put an arrow through their chest. They dropped. This time, I did not rush in. I had learned my lesson, watching them squirm helplessly on the ground. Sending a few more arrows straight into them, I quickly circled the perimeter, searching for any other hidden threats nearby. Only when I was absolutely certain it was clear did I approach the shooter lying completely face down. With my bow drawn back one last time, I shot an arrow right where his heart should be. The supposed corpse let out a desperate, ragged growl. He was totally faking it, but he is dead now. Honestly, who even double taps like this? I am not taking any chances. Flipping his body over revealed blonde hair, blue eyes, hooked nose, dressed in rough leather armor. A Wuhan soldier, one of those barbarian enemies from across the border. That explained the sudden ambush, and I knew these soldiers never crossed the border alone. If one was wandering here, more had to be nearby. And if this guy did not send his safety signal, his companions would definitely get suspicious and raid Quishan village. I quickly stripped the dead soldier's armor, taking his sword, arrows, and sheepskin coat. Then, I hoisted the heavy elk onto my back. But before leaving, I drained the beast's blood. Part of it was to stop the meat from spoiling, and to lighten my heavy load. I filled my empty wine pouch with the blood, drinking as much as possible straight from the neck, then poured the rest over that Wuwang soldier. The wild scent would draw wolves to destroy the evidence. The warm blood instantly rushed through me, heating up my frozen limbs. Instantly, I felt powerful, sharp, and ready. I picked up my pace and headed home as fast as possible. The walk back took over 1 long hour. When I finally saw the smoke rising from the Quishan village chimneys, I let out a massive sigh of relief. Villagers were returning from gathering firewood. They mined coal nearby in Huaishua, but the corrupt government kept prices so insanely high that ordinary folks could never afford it. Chopping wood was our only way to survive the bitter cold. Everyone spotted me carrying that massive elk and crowded around, practically drooling all over it. Hey, Ludu, you are a far better hunter than your father. He never brought down a beast this big. Tell us where exactly you found it. We want to try our luck too. Then, the annoying Zilao Wu slithered forward and made a shameless suggestion that I should just share the meat with everyone, promising they would pay me back later. The others instantly jumped on the idea, Come on, Lutu. You have got a beautiful wife and a massive deer. And is that a warm sheepskin coat on you? Share a little. I stared back coldly. I caught it myself. So why should I give any to you? Go hunt your own, and do not cross me. I ended up running into a Wuhan soldier up in the mountains. The entire room went dead silent. Fear flashed in their eyes. But then Zilo, we just laughed it off. You, surviving a Wuhan soldier. Those monsters can easily shred 100-man formation. With just 3 or 5 fighters, you wouldn't last a second. The others relaxed and started piling on. Even trained veterans barely survived them. Especially a lone Wuhan scout. You actually expect us to believe you killed one? They actually called me a liar just to hoard meat. Then, a little girl, around 10 years old, came running right up to me. It was Shun Hua, Annie Chin's granddaughter. She cheered that big brother Lu was back. I gently ruffled her hair, asking if she was collecting firewood again. Good girl. She nodded. She said Grandma told her to wait. If I wasn't back before dark, she was going to send people up the mountain. Just looking for me warmed my heart. I had only asked Danny-kun to watch over Yushi. Yet she still worried about me. I completely ignored the crowd and smiled at Hua, telling her we should go home so I could roast some meat. Her eyes went wide, asking if she could have some. I took the basket off her. It was practically as tall as she was, and promised her that of course she could. She immediately started swallowing hard. The last time she even tasted meat was 3 years ago, back when her father brought home some lamb, right after winning a battle. Her mother had been coughing severely for years, and couldn't do any hard labor. But after drinking that warm lamb soup, her coughing eased up for a little while. I could easily see that Hua was hoping deer meat would help her mother. Naturally, this peaceful moment gets ruined when a voice yells out, "Pay tax on that deer or what?" It was Jongbo, the village's most notorious bully, squatting right at the entrance with his crew. They shook down anyone who tried passing through, checking bags for anything worth taking. I kept walking, but Jongbo rushed to block my path. "Hey, we are talking to you. Are you deaf?" Huawei grabbed the back of my shirt, hiding behind me. "You are nothing," I muttered. "You have absolutely no right to tax me. Move out of my way." But his buddy, Wang Hao, stepped forward with a disgusting grin. "We heard you have a pretty wife. You have no parents to teach you what to do. On your actual wedding night, maybe we should help you figure it out." I slapped him. The loud crack echoed through the entire village. Wang Hao went flying through the air, landing several meters away, tumbling into the dirt. Look, everyone around us froze. The man weighed over 100 pounds, and I sent him flying with one open hand. He scrambled up, glaring at me with pure hatred. "You dare hit me, boys? Get him." But Jongbo did not move an inch. He was not as stupid as Wang Hao. He clearly saw what that slap meant. The raw arm strength behind it was not something any of them could match. The villagers started cheering. "Good hit. I have wanted to see those thugs get theirs for years." The old Lutu was a pushover who never fought back, so these bullies had never seen him throw a punch. Now they couldn't decide whether to run and suffer absolute humiliation in front of everyone, or stay and get beaten. I walked toward them. But wait, then I heard rapid hoofbeats approaching. Everyone in the village recognized that sound. 3 Wuhan horsemen came charging through the dust, right at the village entrance, armed with curved swords and deadly bows. Wuhan cavalry. "Run!" someone screamed, and just like that, absolute chaos erupted. Terrified villagers scattered in every direction. A stray arrow slammed into the dirt, right at Jongbo's trembling feet. He shrieked, scrambling away desperately on all fours. Moving fast, I grabbed hold of Hua. I pulled Hua away from a fatal arrow, shoving her straight towards safer cover. "Run home and tell your grandma and my wife to run." Her face went pale, but she nodded and sprinted off, dropping her entire basket. I quickly cast aside everything weighing me down, sliding right behind the massive elm at the entrance. I drew my bow, aiming straight for the leader's head. But this guy was sharp. Watch how he reacts here. He jerked his head barely an inch to the side. My arrow sliced his cheek and tore clean through his ear, spraying blood like a horrific red flower blooming. He clamped his hand over his shredded ear, smeared the fresh blood across his face, roaring in fury. "There is an archer. He is the one who killed our 4th brother. Slaughter everyone in this entire village." It all happened so fast. The 4 Warwan riders were already 40 meters away from the main entrance, rain of arrows hitting anyone too slow to escape. An elderly woman I knew, who always wove straw sandals during the hot summers, with a little grandson waiting at home. An arrow pierced her from behind, slamming face first into the dusty ground. Her eyes glazed over as the life faded right out. Suddenly, a tiny, whimpering voice called out behind me. I spun around, and guys, my blood ran cold. That absolute coward, Jongbo, had grabbed little Hua by force, strapping her to his back as a literal human shield. A stray arrow had pierced clean through her chest. I roared in absolute fury, but I knew there was zero time to help. Those riders were only 10 meters away. I quickly raised my bow, pulling the heavy string back as far as physically possible. Pure adrenaline surging through me. One of those raiders screamed a warning to the others, but they completely underestimated just how fast my arrows fly. In half a second, my arrow punched right through one rider's forehead. He crashed off his horse, his eyes still wide, somehow still looking for me even in death. I let another arrow fly instantly. The remaining 2 enemies were closing in on me now. One swung his blade straight at my skull. There was absolutely no time to aim properly. I just shot on pure instinct and dove into a roll. That warrior blocked my arrow with his sword. Sparks erupted off the cold steel. The other horseman charged right at me, snarling like mad. You little mutt, I will sacrifice you to the Wuhan. To them, our people are nothing. They literally call us two-legged sheep. When supplies run dry, they even cook and eat us. And here I stood, just a normal civilian, taking out their elite soldiers one by one. To them, this was totally unforgivable. His heavy sword was about to split my skull wide open. Watch this. His cocky grin instantly freezes. While rolling, I had already drawn the sharp saber, the one I took off that dead Wuhan soldier in the mountains. I swung upward, slicing his entire arm clean off, sliced right through armor and all, even missing a limb. The warrior threw a desperate left hook at my throat. He was a true stepwolf, fighting to his absolute last breath. But he made a massive mistake, trying to fight me close up. After the first cut, I never offer second chances. I flicked my blade, slicing his throat open. Hot blood sprayed all over my face and chest. Can we just appreciate how fast that was? This guy was sneering at me just a moment ago. Now, he tumbled off his horse in his final seconds. He couldn't even lift his head up to see my face. That last rider had been so incredibly confident. He trusted his partner to finish me off up close, so he charged straight into our village, exposing his back, ruthlessly hacking down anyone he could find. I quickly leapt onto the dead warrior's horse and galloped straight after him. He'd already killed Zilao Wu's mother, that pretty sharp-tongued old woman who'd called my wife a cripple. She lay in a pool of blood, face twisted in terror. Zilao Wu was screaming, tears streaming down his face. He grabbed a hoe and charged the horseman. The Wuang soldier didn't even take him seriously. He ducked the hoe with a pretty lazy head tilt and swung his heavy blade at Zilao Wu, but my arrow shattered his sword mid-swing. Boom, knocked it clean out of his hand. I rode up and roared, "Your fight is with me, you Wuhan dog." He stared at my horse and instantly recognized it. "You killed Fabo." I aimed another arrow at him. "Enough talk, I'll send you to join him." He tried that old warrior trick, asking me to dismount and fight him fairly. Man to man, since his sword was gone, I just put an arrow through his chest. Before he finished the sentence, he hit the ground, glaring up at me with pure venom. "You ambushed me, there's no honor in that." I slowly climbed off the horse, stood over him and spat in his face. "Honor? Any thoughts of honor? When you were cutting down unarmed people, you don't get to talk to me about fairness." I turned to Zilao Wu. He was sobbing over his mother's body. Crying won't bring her back. "If you're a man, come over and finish him yourself." He stood up, absolute hatred burning in his eyes. But looking down at that dying Wuhan soldier on the ground, he hesitated. Some other villagers began peeking out from their hiding spots, and watch, they saw an enemy still breathing. They ducked right back inside. I felt pretty disappointed, but I understood. The Wuhan weren't superhuman. They were just vicious, always willing to die fighting. Our people weren't born any weaker. Years of crushing military defeats had completely shattered their fighting spirit. The terror ran too deep, but I stepped forward, cleaving the last rider's head with one swing. Then I glanced over at Zilao Wu and sighed quietly. Honestly, there was simply nothing left to say. Just then, I heard her desperate voice, panicked, crying for her husband. Yushu was stumbling right toward me, limping heavily, covered in dust. She collapsed before reaching me. I rushed over and caught her in my arms. "I'm fine. Are the Wuhuan all dead?" "The Wuhuan are dead," I replied, "but some vermin are still crawling around." My eyes quickly scanned the crowd, searching for Zhongbo, That absolute piece of trash used a 10-year-old girl as a human shield. Hua took his fatal arrow. Seriously, a monster like that shouldn't be breathing. I searched everywhere, but couldn't find Zhangbo. He'll just have to wait. Right now, the wounded villagers needed me, especially poor little Hua. Andy-kun only kept Hua at the entrance, because I'd asked her to look out for me. If not for my request, the girl wouldn't have been there at all. Guilt twisted painfully deep in my gut. Yushi, is there any of that medicine I made earlier today left? Bring me some. I must save lives. She turned to go, as Wulao's wife helped her walk back, since her injured leg was still bad. Heartbreaking cries echoed across the entire village. At least 10 innocent people were dead. Deep in my memory, I carved that number. I finally found little Hua at the back of the crowd. Andy-kun and her mother were cradling her tiny, helpless head. Tears streaming down their pale faces, I pushed through and knelt right beside her, checking her wound, and big brother Lu too. I whispered to Hua, be a good girl, I can definitely fix this. Just don't fall asleep. She shook her head weakly. Could I ask you for one favor? Can you give some meat to my mom and grandma? Mom's cough gets better when she eats meat. Her mother broke down completely. The villagers standing around us couldn't bear to watch. Kids die young all the time out here. But she wasn't even 10 years old. I heated my knife over the flames while constantly talking to her. Of course they will, and you will too. We are all eating together tonight. A very faint smile finally appeared on her pale face. Thank you, big brother. I worked as fast as my hands could move. The arrow had gone clean through her chest, but by some miracle, it missed her vital organs. Too much blood loss. Malnourished and tiny. She had lost too much. I barked orders at her mother to hold her completely still. You can tell she had already given up hope. Even elite doctors couldn't treat this wound. But seeing that I refused to give up, a sudden spark lit back up in her eyes. She did exactly as I instructed. First, I sliced the arrowhead clean off the front, and then yanked the shaft out from behind. In one quick pull, Hua passed out from the pain. Instantly, I shouted for boiled cloth. Andy-kun quickly rushed over carrying a pot of boiling water. I plunged my hand straight in. Didn't care about the burn. Grabbed the cloth, wrung it out and wrapped Hua's wound tight. Yushi arrived with the garlic extract. I pried Hua's mouth open with a spoon, and fed it to her then. I instructed her mother to take her home to let her rest. Whether she lived or died was up to fate now. My face was stone cold when I finished. Seriously, I'd never felt killing intent this strong. The Wuhan were absolutely hateful, but Zhangbo was far worse. Using a child as a shield to save his own skin. The other families with wounded saw what I could do, and fell to their knees all around, begging, Lu, please save my wife. We admit it, we were wrong to treat you so badly. Save my mother, and I will serve you for life. A whole crowd, begging on their knees. They weren't bad people. A few harsh words did not matter anymore. They weren't like Zhangbo. I mean, could you just stand there doing nothing? I turned to Yushi, tell them to butcher that deer, and start cooking the meat. The villain had attacked this village, partly because of me. Since I killed their scout in the mountains, now was not the time to be selfish. I had to pull everyone together as fast as possible, moving from person to person, treating wounds, pulling arrows. They bandaged under my direction. Soon, the entire village got working, boiling water, cooking, tending fires. For the first time, there was real order. Then, we heard it again. Tons of heavy hoofbeats. Everyone froze and started to bolt. I sat down the wounded man I was treating and told his mother, keep bandaging the others exactly the way I showed you. Then, I shouted to the whole village, any man here with real guts, grab a weapon right now and follow me. They just stared at each other. But they did not run. A massive breakthrough. They had watched me kill 3 Wuhan riders, completely single-handedly, which had changed something inside them, but actually fighting beside me. A different story entirely, right? I'll go. Zilao stepped forward, his face red with shame and fury. He grabbed a fallen Wuhan saber off the ground. They killed my mother. I want revenge. Count me in, too. They killed my wife. He ended up with just 5 skinny, malnourished men. Looking at their shaking frames, he raised his voice. Grab your weapons and follow me, he ordered. Snatching a sword, he ran toward the village entrance. The 5 followed right behind him, trembling, but they moved. He ordered them to hide and await his signal, drawing back his bowstring, aiming straight at the approaching torchlight. He counted roughly a dozen riders. If they were more wounded, running wouldn't save them. Better to fight right here. As they entered range, he was about to lose his arrow when a voice called out, "Quishan village." He announced himself as squad leader Zhou from Wuchuan. Liu gasped. It is the army, their own soldiers, but he kept his bow raised. Wait, he had to be sure. Only after he spotted the Wuchuan banner did he finally tell the others to stand down. The men let out massive sighs of relief. The army was here, safe now. He wasn't relieved. He knew how military men and feudal systems operated. And honestly, things were about to get ugly. Sure enough, the very first thing those soldiers did upon arrival was glare at the peasants for holding weapons, then barked that the squad leader had arrived, demanding to know why they weren't kneeling yet. The terrified villagers immediately started to drop, but he grabbed his companion, pulling him back up. He had injured his knee, killing wounded soldiers. He called out that he couldn't kneel. A rider pushed forward from the mounted group. Talk about a bad coincidence. Zhou Yabing, the son of Commander Zhou Taishan, the exact same brat he confronted at the market 3 days ago for harassing the village women, and he recognized him. His eyes swept over their ragged band, looking at them with pure contempt, and he sneered, asking if those mere peasants had seriously killed actual Wuwang cavalry. Zhuo Yabi and I already had history. Just 3 days ago, I caught him harassing our village women. Now he was back, ready to stir up some trouble. Yushi and the other villagers crowded around us. I am not the type to run from a fight, especially since I was in the right. No wonder it took you forever to get here, I said, staring at his massive gut. 10 miles, and you are this late. His soldiers immediately barked at my lack of respect. I laughed. Tell me, squad leader, I bet you can't even draw a bow. That stung. Everyone knew. He only had that rank because of his father. The troops hated it but could not say a word. Wu Luer and the others dragged out 3 Wuhuan corpses, laying them right in front of the troops. Every soldier present had fought on the front lines. They knew exactly how terrifying those Wuhuan cavalry were. Get this insane math. 30 of our men for 1 unarmored Wuhuan. These 3 were wearing leather armor, showing higher rank. Killing even one was supposed to be pretty much impossible for normal soldiers, let alone one lone civilian. Zhuo Yabi finally climbed off his horse, waddled forward with hands on his belt, smiling. Very brave of you to insult me, so let us see what you really have. I stood my ground, unfazed. My blade is for killing Wuhuan to the north, not for bullying our own innocent people. He sneered. Who says you killed them? These Wuhuan soldiers were clearly slain by me and my men, but Yushi already knew his plan. You know, she saw this coming beforehand. He wanted to steal my kills for his own glory. She called Wu Luer's wife over, stepping aside with her, then leaned close to me and whispered, "Strike hard, and end it fast." That actually surprised me. I fully expected her to tell me to hold back. After all, you are not supposed to fight officials. But this girl was sharp, way sharper than I gave her credit for. I completely underestimated her. Zhu Yabing waved his hand, and dozens of armed soldiers closed in. Weapons drawn, the tension was thick enough to cut. Villagers wanted to help but were too terrified. This was the commander's son, backed by actual soldiers. But Zilao Wu and his crew, the ones who stood by me earlier, refused to back down. The army has no shame. Zilao Wu shouted out. Liu Zu killed 3 Wuwang riders single-handedly. That is an incredible feat. And you are trying to steal his credit. Disgusting. We have got your back today. Lu too. Honestly, seeing them risk their necks hits different. Earlier, they followed me to fight an outside threat. That took guts, but standing against the military, that was putting their heads right on the chopping block. Whatever petty beef we had before this meant absolutely nothing now. I nodded at them, then turned back to Zhou Yabing. You're holding a grudge because I caught you harassing those village women. Now you want to steal my war credit. Aren't you afraid the garrison general will punish you? He grinned. Who saw you kill them? As far as anyone knows, I led my men here and wiped out the Wuwang. Isn't that right, boys? His soldiers were disgusted, but they had no choice. The squad leader is mighty. They muttered through gritted teeth. Is that so? I smiled. Then I moved. Zhou Yabing was a fool. He knew I killed Wuwang soldiers in close combat, yet still let me get within arm's reach. Before anyone could even blink, I was right in front of him, with my dagger pressed against his throat. The freezing steel made his entire body break out in goosebumps. For all his bluster, this guy had never faced a real blade in his life. His legs started shaking. The color completely drains from his face. Lulu, let us talk. Do not be stupid. Let's talk. You surrounded me with armed soldiers. Is that your idea of talking? Seriously? Yes, I absolutely love talking things out. Quite incredibly reasonable, really. I draw a thin line of blood across his neck and smile. Too bad, because you know I am not reasonable. He frantically screams at his soldiers to drop their weapons. But they refuse. A soldier's weapon is his life. They would literally die before letting it go. And they definitely are not going to obey. Just because this spoiled brat demands it. Do you want me to die? Do you even know who my father is? One of the soldiers answers back flatly. Your father ordered us to never drop our weapons, under any circumstances whatsoever. So maybe just hang in there a little longer, sir. I cannot help grinning, and the more I smile, watch Zhou Yabing shake in absolute terror. Fine, keep all the war credit. I will report it honestly. This was all a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I say coldly. I do not trust you anymore. Then who do you actually trust? A powerful voice suddenly booms from behind us. Would you trust me? Everyone turns around. Zhou Yabing's face instantly lights up. Father, save me. This man is openly rebelling. It is Commander Zhou Taishan himself, the exact officer who ran that wife selection ceremony. He rides in leading over 100 soldiers. Dismounting, he walks right through the crowd. Every soldier immediately steps aside without a word. Reaching me, he looks down at the Wu Wang corpses. Then he looks at me. Good lad. He says it loud enough for everyone to hear. I noticed something highly special about you at the market, and today, turns out I was right. You have accomplished something remarkable. I listened quietly to Zhou Taishan's praise, but I never dropped my guard. One pleasant sentence is not nearly enough to earn my trust. His son is a complete snake. The father could easily be one too. He somehow read my mind without getting angry at all. Slowly, his hand touched my arm, gently guiding my sharp dagger away from his son's neck. I allowed it, but if he tried anything later, taking him down to would be absolutely no problem. Besides, these 6 border towns are incredibly vast. I could easily find somewhere else to live. Right behind me, Wu Lauer and the others were already starting to shout a warning. But Yushi quickly stopped them, whispering to trust his judgment. She quietly warned them not to make a scene. That single sentence completely stunned them. A woman showing that level of composure in this era was almost unheard of. But my wife, of less than 1 day, was somehow calmer under pressure than any of them. I could literally see the realization dawning on their faces. They were glad they had never crossed her. Everyone held their breath. The old veterans in the ranks figured I was already a dead man. In their experience, any civilian holding a blade to a soldier's throat ended up executed on the spot, their families enslaved, no questions asked. But watch this, he does something absolutely nobody expected. He spun around and slapped his own son, striking so hard that Zhou Yabing flew through the air and crashed straight into the dirt. The entire crowd went dead silent. Zhou Taishan was known as a pretty fair commander, but Zhou Yabing was his only son, born late in life for the aging father. To watch a commoner hold a blade to his boy's throat, and then punish his boy instead, absolutely nobody could believe it as Zhou Yabing clutched his swollen face. Father, why? How did I raise such useless garbage? Zhou Taishan roared. The border is falling apart. The Wuhan are absolutely crushing us. Our men are dying, and you dare steal credit and slander a real warrior. He began viciously kicking and punching his own son, right there in front of everyone. Shocked soldiers tried to step in. Commander, that is enough. Today, he steals all my glory. Tomorrow, he betrays his own father. I will beat this ungrateful wretch to death. I almost laughed. The old man put on quite a show. I caught him sneaking glances at me between kicks. He desperately wanted me to jump in and stop him. That was supposed to be my cue. Play the gracious hero. But honestly, I let him sweat it out. So I stood there with a blank face, watching. Zhou Taishan kept swinging, but I could easily tell he was pulling punches, aiming for the backside, avoiding anything that would cause real damage. Still, his pampered son couldn't handle much, and after a while, his screaming got much quieter. Finally, after he had been at it for a good long while and was clearly running out of steam, I finally stepped in and grabbed his arm. Commander Zhou, please stop, don't hit your son anymore. He secretly let out a huge sigh of relief, but kept the angry face up. No, a father must discipline his own child. I leaned close. You'll love this, and whispered so only he'd hear. Commander, if you keep acting, I am going to stop holding you back. He immediately broke into a pretty violent coughing fit, his face red, gasping for air. I grabbed his arm, helping him sit down on a stone block nearby. He drank some well water and finally caught his breath. What a disgrace to my entire family. He sighed dramatically. I played along. Your son is young. He can still be shaped into someone better. Give young people a chance. He understood my meaning perfectly. I was telling him I would let this go. But his son had better not cross me again. He gave me a highly approving look. You are not just a skilled fighter, he said. You have got a generous heart too. That is rare. Tell me, do you want to join the army? I quickly cupped my fists and bowed. What real man wouldn't want to fight in battle and defend this country, so I'm completely willing to serve. Give me the chance. Commander Zhou Taishan stood tall. Hands behind his back, he nodded. Well said. Lu Tiu, by direct order of the Wuchuan garrison, for going in alone and slaying 3 armored Wuwen cavalry. For this, you are awarded 30 taels of silver, and you are promoted to squad leader. Your monthly wage will be 2 strings of coins. You can personally choose 10 men to serve you. Each of them gets 1 string monthly. You are now responsible for the defense of Quishan village, along with neighboring Songzhen village. But come spring, you head to the front lines. See, this entire military runs on a garrison system. The entire hierarchy, from top to bottom, from general to commandant, commander, then captain, then squad leader, corporal, and private. Even the lowest private gets paid every single month. That is exactly how they get people to enlist. But promotions are tough. It relies entirely on your body count. Yet, as we know, rules are just rules. That is how someone like Zhu Yabing ended up, as a corporal with absolutely 0 combat experience. But for me, this army was my absolute fastest path to true power. Fighting was my ultimate specialty. Squad leader was just the lowest officer rank, with only 10 men under me, but it was a start. From here, my road to greatness was wide open. Thank you, Commander. I will slaughter every single enemy in my path, and completely live up to your trust. Talk is incredibly cheap, though. He respected me in front of all these people, so I showed him major respect right back. That is just how things work. Good job, keep it up. He warns, if those Wuhan raiders return, light the signal fire for immediate reinforcements, and if he spots smoke nearby, he has to go reinforce them. Just deliver the enemy heads back. To claim all the credit, the commander waves his hand, and a soldier presents 30 taels of silver, along with a wooden squad for token. Our main character bows deeply. Safe travels, Commander. He turns back toward the village, and every single villager drops to their knees, shouting in unison as they salute their brand new squad leader. But his heavy killing aura hasn't faded yet. As he sweeps his gaze across the crowd, not a single person dares look back. Sure, he is squad leader now, ruling the whole villages, but he isn't safe. Honestly, things are about to get real ugly. Killing those 3 Wuhan soldiers means retaliation is coming. Those nomads never let their people die unavenged. And Joe Tyson, our guy, isn't dumb enough to think he's forgiven for humiliating his son. That public beating was pure theater, just to save face in front of his troops. Their grudge is pretty damn real and permanent now. But he's not scared. To climb the ladder, you've got to step on some toes. There is only so much food on the table. You grab what you can eat and kick others off. To lifetimes taught him that nothing is free. Everything is taken. Yet, seeing the villagers' completely numb faces feels incredibly heavy. Over a dozen innocent people died in just the last hour. These same people were chatting and laughing just moments ago. Now, their cold bodies lie right in the dirt. But look closely, there's almost no anger in their eyes. Years of brutal raids and corrupt officials completely broke their spirits. Our hero is no saint. He can't fix their broken spirits, and he won't even try. Not just yet. I had to keep my family and myself alive. Addressing the crowd, I shouted, Commander appointed me squad leader of Quishan and Songzhen. From today on, everyone obeys my commands. This garrison setup means civilians are farmers during peace and turn into soldiers during war. It has been this exact way for generations now. Nobody argued. Has anyone seen Zhongbo? Total silence. Folks just stared at each other and shook heads. But then, a young woman in the back raises her hand. Zhongbo's new wife, from Yushu's group, stepped up. He is hanging down the well behind our house. I actually lowered him down there myself. I quickly waved over Wu Lauer and Zilao Wu. Real names, Wu Peng and Ziyang. Go bring him to me. They did not fight much, but they stood by me, earning their soldiers' pay. Exactly 1 string of coins monthly, just for grain. After witnessing what I could do, they completely forgot the old Lu Tuesday. Now, there was only respect. Taking off at a sprint, they dragged Zhongbo back. and the guy was still mouthing off. Are the Wuan gone? Where are you taking me? But seeing me standing there holding a massive saber, pure confusion hit his face. Lu Tuesday, why did you bring me here? Neil Zhaoyang did not even ask why I avenged his mom. My word was absolute law to him. He kicked Zhongbo behind the knee, shoving him down. The squad leader told you to kneel, idiot. Squad leader. Lu Tu is a squad leader now. Panic filled his eyes. What did I do? Is this about the deer meat? You already punished Wang Hao. I stared down at him. When the Wuhan attacked, running away on its own would have been one thing. But you grabbed poor little Hua, and literally used her as a cheap human shield. A child, you absolute piece of garbage. He relaxes slightly, like he can totally just talk his way out of this mess. I was just carrying her to safety. How was I supposed to know an arrow would hit her? If she got shot, that is just her bad luck. The kid was born unlucky. Annie Chin. Shoving through the crowd, she grabs his collar, screaming, you heartless monster. She is so tiny, how could you use her as a shield? Zhongbo ruthlessly shoves the old woman away. Get off me, you useless old hag. I said I was saving her, so if your granddaughter got hit, it simply means she was born to die young. She is not, you did this to her. Keep bothering me, and I will make sure your family will never get a peaceful day again. He is so used to bullying helpless people that these vile threats just fly out automatically. But wait, he suddenly remembers I am standing right there. Flashes me a quick, super awkward grin. Squad leader, I really want to serve under you. I have got a jar of incredibly fine wine at home. Stolen straight from the city, top quality stuff. Come try it. The watching villagers are furious. Shamelessly using a little girl as his shield. How did scum like you survive while my husband died? Heaven is truly blind. None of it bothers Zhongbo, though. He has been a thug his entire life. Insults just bounce off him as he keeps smiling at me. That wine is premium, aged daughter's red. Squad leader, just one sniff and you will. I walk up to him, smiling calmly. You know what? I really would love to try it. From now on, I will do whatever you say. Let me go grab that fine wine right now. He scrambles to his feet, shoving Ziyang aside. Let go of me. I am getting wine for the squad leader. We are all brothers. The villagers stare at me in pure disbelief. You can bet they think I am actually letting him off. They figured I'd take his bribe and look away. Some of them even spit on the ground in disgust. They figured that the honest old Lu is completely gone too, replaced by just another corrupt official. Even Ziyang, a petty official, looked pretty uncomfortable. If I let Zhongbo go, that rat, he would make life absolute hell for anyone who had ever dared to stand against him. Then, before anyone can even blink, my blade flashes, decapitating Zhongbo. It sailed clean through the air. For one brief instant, his eyes saw the world from a height he had never known. Vast sky, snowy ground rushing up. Then his head hit the dirt and rolled to a stop. His body toppled forward. Nobody dared move. Nobody even breathed. I raised my voice, making sure every single person in the village heard me. From this day forward, anyone who betrays or harms their own people will end up looking exactly like him. The brutal show of force worked. Everyone was terrified of me. And honestly, that was exactly what I needed. I ordered the villagers to take their wounded home and come by my house tomorrow for medicine. Next, I told everyone to line up for meat. Hearing the word meat, even those who had just lost their family members lit up with hope, running straight home to grab their pots and bowls. I put Wu Peng and Zi Liang in charge of keeping order. See, that's just how life works out here. Death can come any day from war or famine, or bad luck. We must face it. And keep pushing forward is something everyone must master. When I finally got back home, I was absolutely exhausted. But the rich smell of meat soup hit me the second I stepped through the door. Turns out Yushi had already cooked up some deer stew. She'd heated water, too, gently wiping the dried blood off my face with a cloth. Eat, she said. I was starving. If I had not been trained to endure extreme hunger, in my past life, I would have collapsed. There was easily about 5 pounds of deer meat in the pot. We threw some coarse salt on it, eating with our knives, tearing like wild animals. Suddenly, a woman's voice called from outside. May I come in, sir? A poorly dressed woman walked in carrying a wine jar. She set it down and immediately dropped to her knees. Thank you for finally killing Zhongbo. Her name was Yishinger. She was the wife assigned to Zhongbo today. With him dead, she had absolutely nothing left. The man had never farmed, and already sold his land. She cannot survive, so she begged me to take her as a concubine. I quietly glanced at Yushi. You can bet she was staring right at me. Clearing my throat, I told her I understand times are hard, but I am not taking a concubine. Instead, you can work at my house and look after my wife. You will eat with us, but there is no pay. A brief flash of disappointment crossed Shinger's face, but she quickly nodded. Thank you. I do not need money, just food is enough. Yushi gently helped her stand up. Sister Shinger, I can clearly tell you came from a good family. I am sorry you must take care of me. Shinger shook her head, saying all that is behind her now, hoping that someday I can go home to visit my parents' graves. Both women had tears in their eyes. To gentle girls from respectable families. Think about how cruelly fate dragged them both to this edge. After Shinger left, Yushi kept stealing glances at me. Catching her stare, I asked if there was something on my face. Why did you not take her as a concubine? I simply shrugged. You were sent to this place as a criminal punishment. Having suffered enough, I want you to have a stable life. She did not reply. When I looked up, tears were quietly streaming down her cheeks. You are so good to me. You are my wife. The only person in this whole world I trust. So who else would I be good to? Are you full? Yeah. Get some rest. I need to go handle a few things outside. She shyly grabbed my hand, her cheeks turning pink. Come back soon. I will wait so we can rest together. The dim oil lamp cast a warm, golden glow across her face. She looked more stunning than I had ever seen her. I wanted nothing more than to stay here, but that looming Wuwang night raid kept haunting me, like a thorn I just could not remove. I gently touched her cheek and smiled. Warm up some water for me. I want to wash off this blood when I return. So I counted up the 30 taels of silver that Zhou Taishan had handed over. It equaled 30 strings of copper, an entire 1,000 coins each at 10 coins per pound of millet, which could buy 3,000 pounds. But I couldn't just waste it. I absolutely had to feed my troops until next month's payroll arrived. And these guys had massive appetites. Every single soldier could easily eat 2 or 3 pounds of grain daily. Plus, I had to buy weapons. Each soldier needed a sword and arrows. Without the right gear, I would lose their loyalty instantly. Down at the meat distribution site, most of the locals had already claimed theirs and left. Only Wu Peng, Ziyang, and a few others remained. I told them to split all the leftover meat. They could take it home, absolutely thrilled. Just then, a skinny kid named Liu Yang stepped up. He warned me that the Wu Wen might strike tonight, and volunteered to stand guard after dinner. That genuinely impressed me. He looked totally ordinary, and you have got to love his sharp instincts. I knew him and his younger brother, Lu. Both were incredibly hardworking, always helping their neighbors with chores, never asking for anything but a simple meal. In a lawless wasteland like Wuchuan, that kind of integrity was incredibly rare. And watch how the other guys suddenly avoid eye contact the moment guard duty was mentioned. Honestly, you can't blame them. The weather was absolutely freezing, and most had literally just married today. Plus, Ziyang's mother was just murdered, but apparently, that is not stopping him from enjoying his wedding night. Trust me, that is just how things work here. I watched their shock, saying absolutely nothing. My simple rule, put in more work, earns more reward. Didn't you get married today? I asked Li Young, but he just shook his head. Only 15, way too young. But can my younger brother stand guard with me? He's 14, and he's already working hard. Working by my side since we were kids. He is sharp, bring him. He takes the first shift of the night, and you take the second. He gets 1 string of coins monthly. Hearing this, Liu Yang's face broke into a massive grin. Thank you, squad leader. We won't fall asleep. I promise. He ran straight home and returned with his brother, a pretty nervous kid who looked exactly like him. He had that exact same stubborn, set jaw. Liu bowed quite stiffly. Greetings, squad leader. I tossed him a heavy saber, taken from those dead Wuhan soldiers. You and your brother share it for now. Stick with me. I cannot promise you wealth at all, but you will eat. The moment I said eat, both of their eyes lit up like lanterns. They had been orphans their entire lives, surviving barely on whatever scraps neighbors spared them. You can bet they knew what a full belly meant. I gave the Liu brothers a stern look. Paid or not, do not relax. You protect this entire village now. Slack off, and you know what happens next. They stood stiff. Understood, sir. Then I turned to Wu Peng and Ziyang. Your task tonight is feeding those 3 horses. Wu Peng immediately started whining about the snow. Where am I even supposed to find feed? The horses will not die from one hungry night. Besides, my wife is waiting. I slapped him mid-sentence. Did I ask for your opinion? You took my pay, which makes you my soldier now. My words are strict military orders. Terrified, he instantly dropped to his knees, muttering a quick curse. Young grabbed the horses silently. Do not worry, squad leader. We will handle this. Since they are underage, volunteering to freeze on guard duty. Yet you complain about feeding horses. Hate working that much. I will throw you to the Wu Wang. That threat shut Wu Peng up right then and there. I walked around, checking on the injured peasants once again. Everyone was completely shocked by my promotion, while I was still personally wrapping up their injuries. In their harsh reality, even minor officers treat peasants like garbage. They had never seen any real official kneel right in the dirt to help a bleeding peasant. But I was not looking for thanks. See, they were never the problem. The corrupt imperial court and their useless generals were the issue. Starving people will always do desperate things. Give people full stomachs, and they will live decent lives. Tomorrow, I head to Songshan village to scout for some real talent. History proves that great leaders always found their most legendary generals among ordinary peasants. Liu Bang built his massive Han Empire with simple countrymen, and Ji Yuanzhang found his top ministers among poor peasant farmers. Surely this harsh northern border is hiding some legendary talent too. During my final evening patrol, I found Lu Hu warming himself by a small campfire. A tiny yellow dog sat right beside him. That completely shocked me. You see, absolutely nobody here could feed a pet. When the villagers were literally starving, most animals had been eaten long ago. I knelt down and tossed a dry branch inside. The kid panicked instantly. Squad leader, I was not spacing out. I swear, I simply waved him down. Everyone loses focus when staring at the exact same spot. Hold on, where did you get the dog? The puppy whimpered and hid behind him. Lu just looked at me nervously. He found him in the mountains a few days ago. Please do not eat him, I laughed. I called the dog over and scratched its head. The little thing was surprisingly friendly. A guard post definitely needs a dog. He will hear things long before you do. Train him well, his food is your responsibility. The kid beamed. I told him to stay sharp until his brother came to take over, and that I would have the villagers bring firewood, so he could burn as much as he wanted. All through the night, I checked on the horses on my way home. Hu Peng and Ziyang were out, walking them to find some grass. My earlier slap had definitely done its job. Back inside, I found Yushi sewing by lamplight. She had somehow put together a quilt. Where did you get cotton and cloth? She smiled. Andy, Kun Shinger, and other villagers brought them. Everyone gave a piece of clean cloth and a bit of cotton to celebrate your promotion. They noticed we had absolutely nothing for winter. Something suddenly loosened in my chest. Honestly, I had only been in this world for one day, and it still did not feel like home. But knowing these people could be so grateful, knowing they were worth protecting, that helped. You are pretty handy with a needle, I said. She replied, my mother had me trained by a seamstress, who once embroidered the Empress's wedding gown. That was definitely no slip of the tongue. She had said it on purpose. Watching my face, I sat across from her, ready to tell me. She nodded. You are my husband, and I cannot keep secrets from you. But check outside first, make sure no one is listening. I closed the door and sat back down. Go ahead, and she took a deep breath. My father was one of the 8 pillar generals of the U, the legendary former Grand General. I did not flinch, leaving her confused. Why are you not scared? Why would I be? She had asked villagers about my background. Just some ordinary hunter's son. She was completely baffled. Why I could hear something like this. Without even blinking, her father held the highest rank in the empire, but Emperor Shundi had killed him. He killed her mother and 3 brothers, leaving 28 family members dead. Aren't you afraid I will bring disaster on you? Fire burned in my eyes. I do not even know fear. He murdered your parents and your brothers. From this day on, he and I are enemies. I do not care if he is emperor. One day, I will march into the capital and take his head. Yushi froze completely. She did not even notice the needle pricking her finger, as blood welled up on her fingertip. Never had she imagined the man she married would ever say something like that. And you know he completely meant it. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, pressing her face tightly against my back. Her tears soaked right through my shirt. My parents, my brothers, 28 people from the Song family who died for nothing. Thank you, thank you. You are my woman. Your enemies are my enemies. Do not thank me. Besides, any ruler who lets his country rot this badly deserves to be replaced, and I intend to do just that. She gasped, finding him brave and loyal. but ambitious enough to dream of toppling an entire empire. Honestly, what girl wouldn't fall for that? All I did today, protecting her and killing those Wuwang raiders, defending the village, refusing a concubine, and swearing revenge against the tyrant without hesitation, made me a true hero in her eyes. She held me tighter, her voice barely a whisper. Please, take me tonight. Wait, can we bow to heaven and earth first, before, you know? Of course, she admitted she thought ceremonies were pointless. But someone once told me, life's biggest moments become anchors in your memory. And memory is really all we have. This was my first wedding into lifetimes. It deserved something. I gently helped Yushi to the window. She knelt under the moonlight to make her vow. First, I, Song Yushi, willingly marry Lu here today. Across all lifetimes, I will never, ever leave him. Heaven and earth, bear witness. Betray this oath and let me be destroyed, body and soul. She looked at me with tearful eyes. Waiting, I stared solemnly at the sky and said, same here. She instantly burst out laughing. Be serious, the gods are watching. I knocked my head on the ground 3 times. Mom, Dad, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, I will take good care of her. Please rest easy. Simple words, but that was exactly what she needed. She already knew I was a rough man, and flowery speeches would have felt fake. Honesty kept her safe. She laid out the silk handkerchief her mother made, the one I had used as bandages earlier. Carefully smoothing it out on the bed, she caught me watching, suddenly burying her face in the quilt, blushing crimson, asking why I just stood there. She mumbled, and honestly, that was all the invite I needed. We did not stop until the second watch of the night, before finally falling asleep in each other's arms. Waking up at dawn, Yushi was still sleeping peacefully. I kissed her forehead and quietly slipped out to train. Rain or shine, sick or tired, I always train in the morning. I slept less than 6 hours but felt incredible. Maybe it was the deer blood, the meat, or maybe, just maybe, because for the first time into lifetimes, I was not alone anymore. I warmed up in the courtyard, then ran through my Black Dragon 18 fists, the single best combat technique from my old world, a technique once classified as strictly forbidden. My former squad leader had secretly taught me this style. By the time I finished practicing the complete set, my body was only just warming up. I was ready to grab some breakfast, when I noticed Yushi leaning against the door frame, watching me. She called my style incredible. Yushi said, even the founding emperor's long fist cannot compare. You know martial arts. She pouted, do not underestimate me. I grew up watching my dad train my brothers. Playfully, I poked her nose. All right, expert, go make breakfast. She smiled, but she suddenly got serious. I am no expert. My father never actually let me train, but from what I just witnessed a second ago, your external martial arts have easily surpassed my father's level, but you have a critical weakness. Now that definitely gets our attention. The top special forces soldier in all of China. Having a weakness, what weakness? Enlighten me, beautiful. She dodged my tickling hand and laughed. Stop it, I am serious. Fine, fine. Tell me, your external techniques are perfected, but you have never trained your internal breath. Internal breath? Yes, my father always said that. Without any internal cultivation, to support your external techniques, your joints and bones accumulate hidden damage. When you get older, every rainy day will feel like ants are chewing through your bones. Honestly, that actually makes sense. It was the exact same principle as athletes in my former world, gymnasts and acrobats, who performed incredible feats when young, but ended up completely crippled by chronic injuries by 40. That is why wealthy families will never allow their kids to enter those fields. She grabbed my arm and pulled me inside. But our song family has a special internal breathing method. Practice this for 30 minutes every single day, and you will be fine. Then, she demonstrated a weird posture, a fundamental stance unlike anything I had ever seen. It looked painfully awkward, but in this chaotic world, I trusted her completely. We only had each other, and she had no reason to lie. She slowly detailed the breathing patterns and how to hold each tense pose. Then she went to cook, and I began training. Yet despite my impressive skills, this starved body could not hold the pose for a full half hour. Just 15 minutes of standing had a massive amount of sweat pouring down my face. Even my Black Dragon 18 fists only warmed me up slightly, but this basic stance, it made every single muscle scream in pain. The old general's family technique was the real deal. Yushi finished preparing dinner long ago, but never interrupted me. She just watched with deep admiration in her eyes. And when I finally looked up, silent tears were rolling down her cheeks. She was thinking of her older brothers, how they struggled and whined when their strict father forced them to train this very same stance as kids, brothers who were now gone forever. When I finally pushed past the grueling 30 minutes and released the posture, my whole body was trembling. Crazy, right? For something looking so simple, it was far more effective than any modern training method I used in my past life. If I had not married Yushi yesterday, this secret technique would have vanished from the world forever. No wonder traditional martial arts declined back in my old world. The deep secrets simply died along with the families. I shared my training experience with Yushi. She was completely stunned. Her father had personally trained all three of her brothers, and it took them days of brutal practice just to get the kind of physical reaction I had achieved in one try. She began to wonder if I was some kind of martial arts prodigy. And with that, plus how I handled yesterday's crazy chaos, maybe I actually could avenge her fallen family. Just then, Shinger arrived, playfully lecturing us for cooking without her. Yushi just waved her over to join us. She then brought up her plans for today. What plans? I asked. Brewing more of that medicine from yesterday. Since people keep getting hurt, we can sell any extra batches for silver. When I asked if she knew how, she recited every single step of my Allison extraction process. Temperature, timing, everything. She even tracked the timing of every phase by counting her own racing pulse while watching me. Talk about a mind-blowing moment. I never even tried to teach her, yet she memorized the whole procedure just by watching me once. Her sheer precision was honestly terrifying. You are amazing. I love you. I leaned in and kissed her cheek. Shinger instantly turned bright red. She was still completely innocent, since Jumbo was killed before their wedding night. So watching us flirt like this was way too much. I warmed up some water, letting Yushi check the warmth with her fingers. Remember this feel, around 50 degrees. The extraction only works at this level. She nodded thoughtfully. Can you explain the science when you return? I groaned internally. Learning the method itself simply was not enough. She wanted the full science behind it too. Seriously, my little wife is a total engineering genius, trapped in the ancient world. Fine. I will explain tonight, but Shinger helps you today. Villagers are going to need medicine very soon. Yushi gently adjusted my clothes, whispering softly, please be careful, I will be waiting. I quickly finished my breakfast and headed outside. Zhao Liang and Wu Peng were already waiting, with the horses, Liu Yang and Liu, standing beside them, 4 men total under my command. Barely enough, but it would do. I left Wu Peng behind to watch the village and light the signal fire. If Wu Wang riders appeared, and the rest of us headed to Songzhen village, I mounted up onto a horse. I had riding training in my past life, but I was quite rusty, taking some time to find balance. Zhao Yang and the Liu brothers could not ride at all, so they jogged right alongside me. Only 3 miles, pretty good exercise for them. Along the way, the villagers came out to greet me warmly. Squad leader, eaten yet? Take some of my mother's steamed bread. Come down and have some water. I nodded to each of them, and behind me, my men were completely speechless. They had never seen Quishan villagers act like this. Normally, everyone guarded their own scraps and trusted absolutely nobody. One night under me, and honestly, the whole atmosphere completely changed. Ziyang literally rubbed his eyes when he saw stingy old Auntie Lee actually offering food. Auntie Lee, since when are you this generous? She sniffed. I am not being generous to you. The squad leader personally treated my son's wound last night and today. The cut is already scabbing over. Ziyang looked up at me on my horse with way more respect than before. You can tell something was finally clicking for him, that I was not the old Lutu anymore. Something had fundamentally changed, and even though he could not explain it, just being near me made him feel safe. The Liu brothers walked right behind me, with their chests proudly puffed out. Following a real leader like me meant they finally had some real dignity. No more being looked down on. We finally reached Songzhen village. A bunch of lazy bums were hanging around the entrance, exactly the same type as Zhongbo. Total troublemakers who never did any real, honest work. The moment they saw us approaching, they instantly relaxed, seeing who it was. Oh, it's only you guys. What do you want here? Ziyang spoke up. We came to inspect this village. Their leader is a petty thief named Sufi. Just laughs in our faces. Inspect. Your village is the exact same rank as ours. Who do you think you are? So, I pulled out the wooden badge Joe Taishan gave me. It had the character for squad carved into it. Suefi I saw it, but he still didn't take me seriously. He knew the old Lu as well, the big pushover who let people steal his game, without saying a word. Well, look at you, big shot. A squad leader. 2 little beggars as your actual soldiers. He was openly mocking the Liu brothers. Liu Yang's face darkened. He and his brother worked hard their entire lives, doing real, honest work for food, never stealing, never begging, being called beggars by an actual criminal. The worst insult possible. I kept my face completely calm. Suefi, go gather everyone at the village entrance. Who do you think you are, anyway? Just being squad leader doesn't mean I ever take orders from you. I'm not your soldier. And right there, Liu Yang snaps. He draws the sharp saber I gave him, slamming it right against Sufei's throat. How dare you disrespect our squad leader like that? Suefi and his entire crew froze. The kid they always mocked as some beggar now had a real blade, and the guts to use it. Terrified, Suefi slaps his own face, and forces a weak smile. Sorry, sirs. I completely misspoke. Liu Yang raises his voice, booming across the square. Disrespect the squad leader again, and I'll take your head. A cold voice echoed from behind us. Quite the big talk. Thought the commander himself had actually arrived. A squad of heavily armed soldiers marched up, surrounding a thin, dark-skinned man wearing leather armor. Each of them carried a polished, heavy broadsword. The leader sized me up, staring coldly. So you're Lutu, who killed those 3 Wuan riders? That's me. Who wants to know? I'm Lida, squad leader under the Wuchuan garrison. Songshan and Nanning villages belong to me. Everything clicked instantly. Zhou Taishan. He promised me yesterday that Songshan was mine. Yet here was Lida, showing up early to snatch it. You guessed it, Zhou Taishan's doing. Direct payback for humiliating his son. Passed straight through a proxy. What a joke. Commander Zhou assigned Quishan and Songshan to me yesterday, so turn back where you came from. Lida pulled out a dirty, crumpled paper, covered in messy, childlike scribbles. See this, official transfer orders. I almost laughed aloud. The handwriting literally looked like a child's doodle. They assumed I was just some illiterate hunter, and actually tried to bluff me with this cheap fake. I grabbed the paper, ripped it to shreds right in front of them and yelled loudly, "You complete illiterate fool. Someone completely tricked you with the kid's scribble. And you actually believed these were official orders. Do you know that forging military documents is strictly punishable under martial law?" Lida's face twisted in absolute fury. But my sudden accusation completely flipped the tables on him. Before he could even react, the villagers started gathering to watch. So he doubled down. How dare you destroy the commander's official orders? Grab him, he roared, drawing his heavy broadsword to slice right through me. He only knew 1 soldier had died back in Quishan, but he had no idea I killed all 3 alone. His blade never even got close. Before his arm could rise, my dagger was already at his throat. Drawing your blade the absolute second. Things don't go your way, I say, smiling without any warmth. But when the Wuan hit yesterday, and those signal fires went up, where exactly were you? Why didn't you bring reinforcements? I was in Nangang, couldn't escape. I pressed the blade until blood trickles down his neck. Nangang is barely 10 miles from Quishan. You easily could have run that on foot. You heard the Wuan were coming and you hid. Didn't you? Total lie. I've served for years and never lost to Wuan. A bitter laugh erupts from the Songsan crowd. Well, of course you've never lost. You always run before they even arrive. And look at this. A ragged teenage boy steps forward. Skinny, dressed in absolute rags, but his eyes, hard as iron. My name is Nayan, and I don't lie. A year ago, my father served under you. When the Wuan came, you ran and left him to fight all alone. He killed 1 Wuan soldier by himself, and you stole all the credit. That's the only reason you're squad leader. Lida's eyes flicker with instant panic. But he keeps up the bluff. Nia Foam was the real coward who ran. Nayan drops to 1 knee in front of me. Ever since Lida became squad leader, he has been terrorizing our villages. He uses thugs like Suefi for his dirty work. He takes whatever woman he wants. If he likes someone's wife, he just shows up at their home. When the Wuan attack, he actually posts men at the village exit, just to stop us from fleeing while he escapes on horseback. Please, squad leader, give us justice. The rest of Songsan village drops to their knees right behind him, heads hitting the ground. Everything Nayan says is completely true. Please save us, they screamed at the leader. Rebels, you are all rebels. I will report this and have every last one of you executed. My voice cut right through like ice. Sounds like they are telling the truth. He spun toward me, completely terrified. Do not do anything crazy. I was handpicked by Commander Joe himself. Kill me and you face a military court. The villagers kept kowtowing. Please bring us justice, I said slowly, making sure each word hit home. Our country gave you a soldier's rank, to protect our people, not to hunt them like prey. Today, I will do heaven's work and put this animal down. A single flash of my blade, a red line sliced across Li Die's throat, stumbling backward, clutching his neck, before collapsing right into the angry villagers. Someone screamed, "You murdered my wife. You absolute bastard," a man roared, tackling Li Da, sinking his teeth deep into the exposed flesh. Then another, and then another. Years of brutal abuse and humiliation, stolen wives and murdered families. Honestly, it all poured out at once. The villagers tore into him like starving wolves. Li Da could not scream. He died slowly, piece by piece, buried under the people he had tormented for years. Through all of this chaos, Nguyen stayed on one knee, tears running from bloodshot eyes. But he never once flinched, never looking at Li Die's corpse. I walked over slowly, placing my hand gently on his head. Go on, just let it all out. He shook his head, stubbornly, and bowed down to me 3 times, his forehead touching the dirt. My father died because of Li Da, but my real enemy is the Wuwang. They are the ones who killed him. I am begging you, squad leader. Please, let me join your soldiers. Let me avenge my father, he said, his eyes clear. His resolve was completely unbreakable. Something about this kid really moved me. Good, I called out, making sure absolutely everyone heard. A son who honors his father and serves his nation. Now that is a real man. You are with me. Together, we will slay Wuwang. Lida's troops were definitely the most awkward ones, left standing. With their boss dead, these guys had no idea what to do. They really should have tried to avenge him. But they knew what sort of man Li Da was. Better than anyone, he had abused them too. And their wives were probably still trapped inside Li Die's house. The second I looked over in their direction, they dropped their swords and fell to their knees, begging. We did not see anything. Asking to be let go, I smiled coldly. You followed Li Da and helped him torment these poor people. You think you are innocent. He forced us. But if you accepted his favors, you are not innocent. Seize them. Liu Yang swung first. One clean slash sliced right through a man's hand tendons. La Huanzi Young aimed directly for their legs, dropping them, as the songs and villagers immediately swarmed, to completely finish what we started. I was not worried about Zhuo Taishan blaming me. As far as anyone knew, I acted in self-defense. Since Li Da drew his weapon first, the villagers tore them apart in a frenzy. You cannot punish an entire village. Liu Yang quickly dragged Suefia over, and kicked him to his knees. What do we do with this one? The crowd roared, kill him. At their chant, I gave Liu Yang a look. His blade flashed down, and Sufei's head rolled. Those Liu brothers were really growing on me. Ambitious, sharp, and decisive. No parents to answer to, and completely loyal. Truly great material. I addressed the crowd. Starting today, I am recruiting 50 workers to build defenses. Up at Oxman Pass, grown men get a full pound of millet daily. Women and kids over 13 get 8 ounces. The villagers literally wept with joy. That single pound of millet was worth 10 coppers, basically double what city labor paid them for brutal work. Instantly, volunteers surged forward. But wait, I had to yell over the noise. Listen up, if I catch even a single person slacking off, nobody gets paid, and next time the Wuhan attack, I will not protect you. This grain is coming straight out of my pocket, but it's to keep both our villages safe. We completely understand. Thank you, squad leader. We will work hard. I left Liu Yang and Liu, who completely in charge, ordering the workers to bring their own tools along. To Oxman Pass to dig trenches, plant sharpened stakes, and cover them with grass. The brothers memorized every single instruction. Soon, 50 men were marching north. I took Ziyang and headed straight back to Qishan, then gathered 20 strong men with carts, before riding out to Wuchuan City to buy grain. Those trenches were absolutely crucial. See, Wuhan cavalry heavily rely on speed and mobility. But the old Great Wall, that the founding emperor had built along the border, had crumbled after 100 years of total neglect. Seriously, even stray dogs could stroll over it. Last time, I only killed those 3 riders, because they were way too overconfident, and didn't even try to escape on open ground. I simply couldn't chase down mounted enemies. Proper fortifications were our only reliable defense. Paying local villagers to build them served 3 big purposes at once. It fed people, plus it strengthened my authority, and started breaking the myth that the Wuhan were invincible. If I got lucky and took down a few more raiders, those imperial bounties would cover all costs easily. Right now, my only real problem was lacking funds. -1 men or weapons in the city. Buying 3,000 pounds of grain all at once turned some serious heads. Everyone stared. I was new, and I was spending big. That kind of attention always attracts predators. But honestly, I wanted them to come. I was low on weapons and quite literally itching for trouble. We pushed our carts out openly, making absolutely zero effort to hide what we were carrying. Sure enough, halfway back, about a dozen masked men with swords blocked our path. Their leader opened his mouth to deliver the classic bandit speech, saying this mountain belongs to me. I just laughed. These absolute idiots actually showed up. I cut him off, skipped the speech entirely. Just bring out every single man you have at once. The bandits stared back, completely confused. They looked at my villagers, expecting to see sheer terror. But instead, they saw something pretty strange. Every single one of my guys was grinning. Not nervously, either. They were staring at those bandits. Seriously, they looked at them like dead men. My guys even sat down on their carts to rest, settling in like they were at a show. After all, their squad leader had slain 3 elite Wuhan cavalry. Single-handedly, highway robbers were just entertainment. The bandit leader spat on the ground in anger. You cocky little brat. Drop the grain and run, and maybe we'll let you live. His men tried to look pretty threatening, snarling and waving their swords around in the air. But then, they noticed my villagers were still smiling. Everyone was grinning, including me. A sudden wave of unease washed over the bandits. I checked our surroundings. No hidden ambush, so I dismounted, drew my heavy broadsword and walked right toward them. Hand over everything of value. Drop all your weapons, and maybe I will let you live. The bandits rubbed their eyes in absolute disbelief. Every single one of them blurted out the exact same thing. At the same exact time. What? I walked right up to their faces. Are you guys completely deaf? Which one of you is the leader? The biggest bandit stepped forward. Boys, we got ourselves a fool today. He yelled to kill me as he swung. I easily parried and thrust straight for his chest. The guy never saw anyone move this fast. Instead of backing off, he chose a desperate trade. He took my steel in his ribs, just to get one final swing at my head. You have to respect his sheer guts. But guts won't beat 15 years of brutal daily training. With a quick twist, my blade pierced his heart. His eyes bulged bloodshot. As he fell, the rest of his gang panicked. Their leader was dead in literally 3 seconds. Talk about instant surrender. They threw their weapons down. Then they bolted. I pulled my bow and instantly sniped the runner. Run and you die. They froze right there, shaking. These guys literally murdered innocent travelers for a living. But the very second death actually came for them. They were the biggest cowards alive. One of them actually opened his mouth to beg. My arrow pierced right through his throat before he finished talking. After that, not a single soul dared to speak. I questioned them one by one about their hideout. Each time I got my answer, I ended the one who talked, and then I forced the next guy to verify the story. In the end, only one remained alive. Take me to your camp, I ordered, splitting my people. Half of them came up with me, while half stayed with the young guarding the grain. The last bandit led me up winding trails, right to the mountaintop clearing. Just a few shacks sitting out in the open. I told him to lure them out if he wanted to survive. He walked straight up to the main cabin, calling out that the boss needed some help to carry grain, but the second leader wasn't stupid. He saw right through the lie, instantly realized something had gone wrong, and instantly stabbed the poor messenger in the back. Then he told his men to grab everything and run. They pulled up floorboards, hauling out a chest. Just watch what's inside. Suddenly, the room lit up. It was packed with high-quality government silver. They were completely occupied stuffing heavy silver into giant bags that they never even noticed me slip inside. I dropped the 2 nearest guys before they blinked. The others barely had time to scream. In under a minute, everyone lay dead except their second in command. He backed himself trembling into a corner. Take all the silver and let me go. He begged, but I demanded where they got government silver. We robbed it. Don't insult me. Trash like you could never raid a government convoy. You have 3 seconds. 1, 2. We traded salt and iron for all of it. We sold everything to the Wuhan. That hit like a punch. I had already noticed. Those Wuang soldiers carried weapons, far sharper than our own military. Now, I finally knew why. A trader on our side was selling iron to them. The border garrison was totally rotten to the bone. Who is your backer? Simple mountain rats do not run an arms trade alone. You won't believe me, it's Commander Joe Tyson himself. Joe Tyson, what a massive snake. The guy who played noble father to everyone, was secretly selling off weapons to the enemy, the same enemy slaughtering his own people. Keeping my face calm, I accused him of slander. Tell me the absolute truth, or die right now. But the idiot thought he was slick, and lunged forward with a hidden dagger. I easily caught the blade on my sword, twisted, and cleanly sliced through his wrist tendons. His knife clattered loudly to the floor. He collapsed, crawling pitifully at my feet. I swear it's true, we are not bandits. We serve the Joe family. We run this entire operation on schedule, and deliver all the silver directly to him. He has not collected this chest. I demanded proof, and the second in command pulled a small token out of his pocket, engraved with the family name, Joe. I flipped the token over in my palm. It felt heavy. Scratching at the edge, I uncovered solid gold underneath. A simple family token, yet made of pure gold. Joe Tyson was unbelievably rich. A simple commander smuggling salt and iron to the Wuhan. He could never pull this off without his superiors involved. And if a single city was already this rotten, how rotten was the whole northern border? I did not even want to imagine it. But the ugly truth was clear. The Wuhan had terrorized this frontier for 100 years, only because our own people were actively helping them, draining the very lifeblood of their own countrymen. Suddenly, the deputy tried to cozy up to me. He offered to let me pocket the silver. We would just blame everything on the commander, claiming he fled with the funds. I played along, praising his clever plan, even patted his shoulder. Then, I drove my dagger straight through his throat. Did he seriously think we were buddies? I spat on his corpse. Absolute scum. Inside was about 230 silver taels, enough to build a proper fighting force, and feed the workers across both villages. But nobody could find out where this money came from. If Joe Tyson realized I raided his secret operation. Otherwise, I would face a two-front war. I still needed to defeat Wuhan first to get my military promotion. Now was not the time to make an enemy. I finally called in my own villagers. They nearly fainted when they saw the corpses. I pointed at the treasure. See this? Want some? Their fear turned straight to hunger. Watch how fast their greed takes over. But they knew they did not earn it. They swallowed hard and slowly shook their heads. It belongs to you, squad leader. I asked, waiting. My old hunting partner, and easily the best warrior here, asking for his thoughts. He agreed with the rest. It was mine. Good. Take this chest back to my place for safekeeping. Military funds now. Every one of you, come collect 100 pounds of grain tonight. Their faces lit up as they bowed and thanked me. Fear alone never buys true loyalty. You have to reward people generously, if you genuinely want them to follow your lead. I had them bundle the silver and weapons, so nothing looked suspicious. Then I checked the remaining shacks. The last hut was set way behind the hilltop. As I drew close, I heard faint noises inside. I kicked the door open and gagged. That horrific stench of rot hit me like a wall. Inside, more than a dozen naked women huddled, lying on a filthy shared bed. They shielded their eyes from the sudden light. Then they spotted me standing in the doorway, and started crawling toward me on their knees, begging, crying out for help. They desperately screamed who they were. A blacksmith's young daughter, a baker's wife, even a merchant's child. Looking at their broken bodies, it completely tears you apart. Every single one of them was covered in red splotches. Their legs were raw from disease. Those bandits had completely destroyed them. My fists clenched. Animals. One sick woman in the corner was barely alive. Her companions gently helped her sit up. She spoke in a weak, cracking whisper. Sir, I have been here 6 months. My body is ruined, so do not trouble yourself. If you pass the He family village, north of the city, tell my people about He Huan, that she married far away and is doing well. She had a terribly filthy face, but she had the clearest eyes I've ever seen. She couldn't have been older than 18. I couldn't refuse her request, I promise. She smiled a pure, gentle smile with tiny dimples, and closed her eyes. She was gone, and honestly, it just leaves you speechless. The sickness had gone too far. In truth, absolutely none of them could be saved. The infections they carried were completely untreatable, with anything available in this primitive era. Bringing them to a city would only spread the plague, revealing that he had actually been here. The remaining women sobbed over He's body, grieving for her and themselves. Waiting, and the rest arrived, witnessing the scene. Their eyes burned with absolute fury. Stealing his heart, he told the women the truth. He couldn't take them along in their fragile state. But every last bandit on this peak is dead. They have paid heavily for their crimes. The crying stopped as they looked with deep gratitude. One of them pressed a cloth into his hand. A simple list of their names. They begged him to tell their families the same. Say we married off into some distant villages. That's all we ask, he promised. Then came one final plea. Grant us a quick death. They refused to waste away slowly like Hua. At that, Wooding stepped forward. Roughly, he muttered, squad leader. Let us handle this. Granting them peace is the very least we can do. The women bowed deeply to him and the others. Thank you, brothers. Honestly, this is his hardest choice yet. Since landing in this world, he simply couldn't bring himself to do it. But granting those women a swift, painless end was the only real mercy left. He walked out, standing at the very edge, as those gut-wrenching sounds echoed from behind. Gripping the cloth listing their final names, he screamed furiously into the vast forest below. He swore revenge as Hooting stepped up behind him. It's done, squad leader. They could leave, but he couldn't look back. Thank you. Hooting nodded silently and led them down the mountain. He forced himself to recover. There was far too much left to settle with Zhou Taishan, selling contraband iron to the Wuwang, to running ruthless bandits on the side. You know he's going to settle that score soon. On the march home, nobody dared ask a thing. The soldiers who went up kept their mouths shut, and those who stayed below didn't push them. Back in the quiet village, I cleared out that little house right next to mine. My father had originally built it as a spare for when I finally got married, but now it is a perfect grain storehouse. One immediately sent Ziyang with 50 men to start digging trenches. Right at Oxman Pass Kuishan, local villagers lined up eagerly the moment they heard. There was food in exchange for labor. Huiting's group handed over 230 taels and collected their 100 pounds of grain each. I quickly pulled Huiting aside. Those 7 men who climbed that mountain with you, make absolutely sure every single one of them keeps quiet. Understood, and from now on, you will patrol between these 2 villages. If anything goes wrong, fire a signal arrow immediately. That's 1 string of coins monthly. Thank you, sir. Back home, Yushi saw right through me instantly. She gently pressed her fingers to my temples, asking, what happened to trouble you last night? The walls between them are completely gone now. I spilled everything about those nasty bandits, the stolen silver, and Zhou Taishan's dirty trade with the Wuan. Her hands shook with pure rage. She ground her teeth. When my father was still alive, he fought hard to put the crown prince on the throne, just to finally clean up this rotten border military. But that prince was just too honest. So the 6th prince stole the throne instead. What is your plan? She asked. I stared out the window. This army is completely useless. The emperor is rotten, so I will replace them both. Even a general's daughter gasped at those words. Whatever you do, I am with you, she promised. But I do not think we should strike Zhou Taishan just yet. We are too weak. Under 10 completely untrained men, and the only true fighter is you. We must use your incredible skills to earn military merit, climb up the ranks and build our strength gradually. That work for grain program you started was honestly brilliant. It keeps the young men busy, feeding their families while completely winning over their loyalty all at once. I was thrilled our thinking aligned so perfectly. My hands nearly grabbed her, but remembered what I touched on that mountain. So I stopped and scrubbed my hands, raw with ash and water, before kissing her forehead. I promised she would be the absolute best partner. She blushed red, begging me not to praise her. It was completely new to her. I pulled her close, and we just played around for a while, laughing and chasing each other around the room. That heavy mountain darkness finally faded away. Then I brought up a problem that was bothering me. Once the defenses are fully built, I want to train the workers as soldiers, but I do not know spear techniques. Her eyes sparkled. She did. I asked how, since her father banned her training. She grinned, explaining he only banned practice. But she memorized every move taught to her brothers. Turns out, she actually has a perfect photographic memory. I immediately thought of the Allison, which she reproduced perfectly after seeing it once. I went to check her work, and it was identical. She was not lying. I told her I need her. She blushed again, whispering tonight. No, I need spear training tomorrow morning. Now get to work, you are burning up. She wriggled free and we played like kids, until Shinger walked right in, carrying firewood and completely ruining the mood. I told her to take some grain home, then rode out to check the Oxman Pass trenches. I spotted the workers taking a break from a distance. They immediately scrambled back to their shovels. The exact second they saw me coming, Liu Yang and Nayan rushed right over. Embarrassed, they were so tired. so I granted them a quick break. I checked their progress, and they had actually dug faster than expected. I laughed. They are not oxen. If they get tired, let them rest. As long as nobody is faking it, we are fine. Relief washed over them. Under any other boss, they would have been whipped for resting. Thank you, sir. They swung their shovels with double the energy. I walked down the trench, checking their work, and then I felt it. The unmistakable vibration of heavy hoofbeats rushing through the dirt. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Everyone, get in the trenches, fight the Wuhan. It was just way too late. Even with my fast reflexes and loud warning, the very second I felt those hoofbeats, people died. Arrows came raining down, tearing through workers before they could even move. I dove straight into the half-dug trench. It was barely knee-deep after half a day of digging. I knew the Wuhan would eventually come, but they caught us completely off guard. About 10 lethal riders. And these guys were way smarter than the last group. They had been watching the workers, just waiting for my arrival before launching their attack. If they broke through Oxman Pass, it was just open flatlands behind us. Nowhere to run or hide. Anyone with a weapon, stay here and fight. I quickly drew my bow, putting an arrow right through the first rider's throat, then another, two down. But the enemies were already right on top of us. This shallow trench could not stop cavalry. They just jumped right over it and began slaughtering the helpless villagers behind us. Amidst the screams, 3 riders surrounded me, striking from above. Seriously, fighting cavalry on foot is a total nightmare. They have reach, speed, and height. If I were some average fighter, that initial charge would have easily killed me. I deflected a blade aimed straight at my neck, and used their downward force to roll under a horse, slicing cleanly right through its front legs. As I slipped under, the rider crashed hard to the ground. I sliced his throat open before he could even stand. The other 2 froze. Who are you? Tell us your name. My sword did the talking, launching myself straight up like a human spear, and I brought my sword crashing down on them. The heavy impact shattered his weapon in half, cleaving straight into his skull. He died staring at the blade in disbelief. Can you even imagine his absolute shock that anyone could slice steel? The last survivor screamed out to his companions in their native tongue. All remaining riders abandoned the fleeing villagers and turned on me, eyes red with fury, seeing their dead comrades lying lifeless right at my feet. How dare you kill our noble Wuwang? Noble warriors, don't make me laugh. And as they yelled, my bowstring sang again. The rider who called for help dropped dead. They went absolutely insane. Every single rider flattened against their horse, using the beasts as shields, charging as a group. Getting close, they all dismounted at once. They decided to fight me on foot. I tossed my bow aside, meeting them with steel. One wore heavy chainmail, carrying a massive battle axe. He blocked my strike, sneering coldly. Good moves, bad brains. All your people fled, so why stay and die alone? I didn't even need to look back, knowing full well the villagers had scattered. My will never bends. Then a voice cut through the chaos. The squad leader is fighting outnumbered, while you cowards run. Nayan, Liu Yang, and Liu, climbing right out of the trench. They killed a rider. All 3 were bleeding heavily. You can see their eyes changed completely. They crossed that line and came out much harder. And on the other side, fleeing villagers stopped. They did not return to fight, but they stopped fleeing, choosing to watch from afar. The 3 boys charged, wounded but loyal. They yelled, "We are here, sir." I laughed. Good. Welcome to the battle, I yelled, pushing forward. My blade found angles nobody expected. I flicked a spear right out of his hands, and sliced a savage gash right across his chest, scraping bone. The sound of metal grating on ribs made everyone cringe. That armored warrior roared. He swung his massive axe in a deadly arc at my head. Despite my wrist strength, I could never block that kind of raw force directly, so I threw every muscle into dodging. The heavy axe whistled past my ear. He did not stop, spinning like crazy, using that spinning momentum to swing repeatedly in massive circles. A literal human tornado. Honestly, nobody can get close. Liu Yang flung his sword at him, but it just bounced off the spinning axe like a toy. Nayan grabbed my bow, desperately trying to help. However, the combatants were tangled too close together. He simply had no clean shot. Yet, I stood right in the eye of that storm, calm as ice, just waiting for my opening on his 6th rotation. There it was, the tiny fraction of slowness. He was tiring. His heavy chainmail covered everything except his face, meaning I could not cut joints. The only target left was a palm-sized window, right around his eyes and nose, and he guarded it well. Timing my counter perfectly, I kicked his hands directly at the base of the axe handle, striking his tiger mouth grip. The massive weapon flew from his grasp, clattering away. And now, he's just a toothless crocodile without that weapon. He stared in utter shock, stunned by my skill. You must hold high rank in the U's army, he shouts. Capturing you will get me promoted. I spat back, does rank really equal fighting ability? You foreigners truly do not understand our culture. Infuriated, he pulled two heavy chains from his belt. He whipped them backward, forcing Liu Yang and his allies back one by one. He sneered, just you and me. Do you dare to slow? Everyone was to slow despite his desperate warning. The exact second he felt those drumming hoofbeats, deadly arrows were already raining down. Helpless workers collapsed before they could even take a step. He dove straight into the trench. It was barely knee-deep, just enough to crouch. He knew the Wawan tribe would attack, but not this fast, around 10 riders. They were incredibly smart. They had watched those workers all along, just waiting for him to arrive before they struck. If they broke past this pass, it was flat, open ground, defenseless, a complete slaughter for any armed defenders. Stand and fight, he drew his bow, and dropped the first rider with a throat shot, then a second, but they were already here. That half-done trench was totally useless. The warhorses cleared it with ease, slicing right through. Workers on the other side. Screaming echoed everywhere as 3 riders boxed him in, slashing viciously from horseback. You guys know fighting mounted enemies on foot is hell. They held every advantage. He blocked a strike at his neck, rode the heavy force down into a roll, and slipped right under a horse belly. His blade sliced its front legs clean off as he slid through. The enemy rider hit the dirt, and he opened his throat before the guy even landed. He launched himself upward, and shattered the next enemy sword completely in half, along with his skull. Next, he shot the rider calling for reinforcements. While they were distracted, that drove them berserk. All remaining riders charged forward, using their horses as shields. As they closed in, they dismounted as a pack. They wanted him grounded, where sheer numbers actually mattered, and one of them wore heavy chainmail. He wielded a massive battle axe as big as my entire torso, but he easily blocked my first strike and laughed. Good moves, idiot. Your people all fled, so why die alone? Honestly, he was right. I didn't actually need— Look, the villagers had already scattered, but my resolve doesn't break easily. Just then, Nyan's voice sliced clean through the noise. Our squad leader is fighting alone while you cowards run. Him, Liu Yang, and Liu. They dragged themselves out of the trench, blooded, wounded, but transformed. Together, they had just killed a rider. Look at their eyes, they aren't boys anymore. The running villagers suddenly stopped. They didn't return to join the fight. They stopped, shouting, "We are with you, sir." I laughed, welcome. Pushing the attack, my blade sliced from impossible angles, instantly disarming one man, and sliced a gash across his chest so deep. Scraping bone, the chainmail giant roared. He swung his massive axe in a wide circle at my head. No amount of pure skill lets you block that kind of devastating raw power. Dodging by mere inches, I watched him keep spinning around and around. Seriously, he's a wine-powered death machine. Nobody got near. That's when Liu Yang hurled his sword directly at him. It just bounced off like a twig. I stayed right inside his storm, watching, counting rotations, right on the 6th spin. I caught it, a split-second hesitation. He was tiring, so I kicked the axe right out of his grip, striking right at the weakest point of his hold, and it clattered away. You must hold a high rank to fight like this, he sneered. Capturing you will earn me a promotion. You really think rank equals fighting skill? You truly do not understand us. He suddenly pulled two heavy iron chains from his belt, whipping them fiercely in wide circles, driving my men back, leaving us one-on-one. Just you and me, do you dare? The villagers who ran away earlier were slowly creeping back, clutching their hoes and shovels, screaming to kill him. I spotted Zilian hiding right there in the crowd. Totally useless. Even after the Wuhan murdered his own mother, he still could not find his spine. Some people are just like mud. You simply cannot build a wall with them. Suddenly, the chainmail warrior whipped both chains at my head, but I read his shoulders, and I was already moving before the iron left his hands. We all know how to beat long-range weapons. Get inside that massive reach with a short blade, slipping through attack after attack, closing the gap. He could not track my movements. My footwork was something he had never faced before. Unpredictable, constantly shifting direction. He was bigger and stronger, but I was 5 times more agile. one iron chain wrapped around my sword, while his other hand coiled metal around his fist, throwing a punch straight at my skull. Instantly, I let go of the blade, slipped sideways using Black Dragon 18, the Dragon Maiden's mirror technique, gripping his wrist right above the knuckles, locking his arm tightly with my elbow. I swept his legs and slammed my shoulder into his chest. He crashed down like a falling tree. In the split second he hit the dirt, I threw myself on top and locked him in a deadly cross choke, legs pinning down both his arms, both my arms crushing his throat. This hold is absolutely devastating. A normal man would black out in 5 seconds, and die in 10, no matter how big they are. Once locked, it is over. He thrashed around like a wild animal, throwing up massive clouds of dust. My arms did not budge, but Nyayan was panicking. Why is the squad leader wrestling, giving up his huge speed advantage? But Liu Yang slowly shook his head. The squad leader knows exactly what he is doing. Swords drawn, they crept closer, ready to strike if things went sideways. And just like that, the giant completely stopped moving. But he still held on. Squad leader. He's dead. No. Wait, he's just exhausted. Prying them apart, the villagers rushed in. They forced his arms open and laid him down. Someone brought water, while others piled up firewood. Others quickly formed a tight circle to block the wind. He collapsed entirely. 2 days of relentless combat on this starved, underfed frame had drained his energy completely. Nothing like this ever happened in his past life. But look at him now, just skin and bones running on fumes. He lay there, desperately forcing himself to breathe, until he could finally open his heavy eyes. The very first face he saw was Liu Yang. Lahu and Mia Yun stood there, standing over him with tears streaming down their faces. A strange warmth stirred in his chest, just like old times. True brothers in arms, watching each other's backs. He pushed himself up. You three did well today. Lahu, the youngest, burst into tears. Sir, you saved every one of us, and the first thing you do is praise us? I don't deserve this. He squeezed his shoulder. If you fought the Wuhuan, you're a man, which is more than he can say. For those gutless cowards who only know how to run. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Faces burned red all around. Liu Yang, Lahu, ride to the city with those Wuhuan heads. Cash in our military bounty. Yes, sir. Raising his voice, he ordered everyone back to digging. Any family who lost someone in today's attack can visit Kaishin village and collect 50 pounds of grain from him. Pure silence, then whispers, compensation for those killed by the Wuhuan. That's completely unheard of. Not once in the entire history of the U. Losing that heavy gold definitely hurt, but winning their hearts was worth every grain. Every legendary leader throughout history did the exact same. I needed to prove I was completely different from other officers that these poor people had ever known, because that is how you build a real following. Right then, the entire crowd dropped to their knees. What an incredibly righteous leader. This squad leader actually cares for his own people. I quickly called back Liu Yang and the others. They could not ride, and this critical task needed to be done fast. I went alone. Nyayan and Liu Yang chopped off those 9 Wuhuan heads, while the grateful villagers strung them tightly together with rope. Before loading the bloody cargo onto my horse, I left Nyayan to guard the mountain pass, sending the Liu brothers back to distribute vital grain to the poor workers. Then I rode hard straight toward Wuchuan City, with a string of severed heads bouncing behind my saddle. Shocked villagers along the dirt road covered their mouths in horror. The moment I finally approached the massive south gate, guarding soldiers spotted my approach from a long distance. A blood-soaked rider hauling a grim load of severed heads. Spears raised, they ordered me to halt. 1 step closer and you die. Pulling my horse back, I announced myself as squad leader Lu. These are Wuhuan heads, and I am here for my bounty. But the gate captain, Zhou Tong, was actually Zhou Taishan's distant nephew. Classic corruption, right? That corrupt man had his relatives planted absolutely everywhere. Zhou Tong recognized my face and sneered. A nobody squad leader like you killed elite Wuhuan soldiers. Not a chance, so I just held up the heads. Look for yourself, I challenged, as he examined them. Blonde hair, blue eyes, hooked noses, they were unmistakably Wuhuan. His face twitched in total shock. Defeating 10 armored Wuhuan riders was absolutely impossible. That normally took hundreds of elite imperial troops. But do you think he would let me through? Claiming that these are obviously fakes, he accuses me of dressing up corpses to cheat the system. Yeah, I've seen your pathetic type before. I just flashed my badge. I'm not arguing with him. I'll submit these heads to the commandant directly. He can verify them. I ride straight at the guards and yell at them to move. My patience is gone. If I'd sent Liu Yang instead, these vultures would steal my credit, or have my boys brutally beaten up. Coming myself was right. The guards see me absolutely drenched in fresh blood, eyes still burning with pure killing intent, and they step aside without waiting for orders. Jitong is furious, but he's smart enough not to physically block me. As I pass, I look right down at him. My name is Lutu, remember? This might be the very last conversation we ever have. I nudge my horse forward and shove him aside. Stumbling behind me, I hear him yell, ordering a soldier to run straight to Zhou Taishan's estate to deliver a full report, but I'm not going to him. Going there, that's a total trap. Sure, he is my direct superior, but his hostility was already pretty clear. 9 Wuwang heads would just be begging to have my credit stolen. Instead, I ride straight for the commandant's residence, the highest authority around. If even the commandant tries to block me now, then my entire path to advancement is completely dead, and I'll need a different strategy. Arriving at the commandant's gates, I dismount far back. Rules require everyone to approach strictly on foot and completely unarmed. The guards tense seeing my blood-covered appearance, grabbing their weapons. Who are you? State your business. I show my badge. I am squad leader Lutu. My goal is to claim military merit. These are Wuwang cavalry that I personally killed. The guards inspect the heads, confirming they are genuine Wuwang, and their eyes go wide with pure shock and excitement. Wait, you killed all of these? I cannot take credit for that. Some of them fell to my soldiers. We took massive losses, but they just brushed it off. Losses do not matter when you slay Wuwang cavalry. You are a real man. Wait here. I will go report this. Their mood changed instantly. Unlike back at Xiaotong's gate, I bowed to them with gratitude. A crowd gathered fast as someone on the street shouted, "Someone killed them." A whole crowd of Wuchuan locals poured in from everywhere, craning their necks just to glimpse the heads, and they are whispering about me, saying, "Look at him. A true warrior took them all out alone." Wait, you guys recognize him from the wife selection? The guy who chose that skinny girl everyone made fun of. It is him. We thought he would starve. Yet here he is, slaying Wuwang cavalry. Several matchmakers pushed right through the crowd, bowing low. "Young hero, have you thought about taking a concubine?" But I politely declined. I live on the edge of a blade every single day. It is not the right time. They sighed with disappointment. Handsome, brave, and so humble. Quite the catch. The guard came back grinning. "Our commandant wishes to see you. Please come inside." I followed the guard right inside, still carrying that string of heads. The commandant's grand estate was nothing like the filthy, broken-down city outside. It had gardens, pavilions, carved pillars. It resembled some wealthy southern nobleman's mansion. Just imagine that. Locals here barely eat once a day, while these officers lived in luxury. I kept my face blank. They led me to a training yard, where a young officer relaxed in a high-backed chair. His eyes closed. Meet Cloud Al, the deputy. "Commander." He opened his eyes, staring directly at the heads, as they were lined up on the ground. His soldiers confirmed 9 Wuan cavalrymen, 1 in chainmail. He sported a giant, burning flame tattoo on his face, a clear sign of high status within the Wuan tribe. "Tell me how you killed them." I told him straight. 8 were killed by me, plus 1 by my men, witnessed by villagers from both sides. He slammed his armrest, roaring, "How dare I lie? 1 have been in Wuchuan for 10 years, and I never saw 1 man beat 10 riders." My blood boiled. This entire military was pretty rotten from top to bottom. It was true. "Still lying," he sneered. "Prove it," he said, waving his hand, and a young officer clad in red robes stepped out, twirling a pretty shiny silver spear. "Meet Beanwei, our very own martial arts champion." Beanwei then declared, "Unless I survive 10 moves against him completely barehanded, my military claims would be called complete lies." I laughed out loud, a booming laugh echoing right through the courtyard, making everyone flinch, even the great General Cloud Al. I glared at their champion with absolute contempt. "If you are so talented, go hunt down those same Wuan riders, and bring back their bloody heads. Threatening your own comrades with a weapon proves absolutely nothing." Beanwei won a tournament last month, beating 36 elite opponents back-to-back. He was basically Wuchuan's ultimate golden boy. Nobody ever talked to him like this. For that insult alone, he promised to carve 3 holes in me. He lunged, and get this, I was completely unarmed. While I dodged, the guard who brought me spoke up, calling out to the general, saying this was unfair, but Cloud Al just glared. "He claims to have slain 9 deadly Wuan riders. Even a chainmail-wearing warrior, fighting our champion completely unarmed. Sounds pretty fair to me. But the spear is the king of all weapons. Even master swordsmen struggle against it, let alone someone unarmed. Silence. Since when do mere guards make my decisions here? If you object, go take his place. I heard every single word while dodging Beanway's strikes. My fury was slowly building to a breaking point. This was not a test, they were trying to humiliate me, and Beanway was genuinely skilled. That spear play was brutally fast and precise. He couldn't dodge them all, so he braced his forearms to block a heavy strike. Using the raw momentum, he rolled right toward a guard, and snatched the saber from his belt. He roared at Cloud Owl, yelling that the commander had pushed things too far, but his rewards were denied and they refused him honor. They forced him to fight completely barehanded now. Do not blame him for what happens next. His choice was made. Forget the champion. Watch this, he charges straight for Cloud Owl full speed. If this corrupt system was going to cheat him, he would take the deputy commander down and run. With Yushi, they could easily start over somewhere else. But one thing was absolute. He was done bowing, exploding past Beanway's thrust, charging directly at Cloud Owl himself. Suddenly, a stray arrow shot out and struck his blade, stopping him instantly as a furious voice roared out. A middle-aged man clad in golden armor strode in. His very presence held the absolute authority of a tiger. Immediately, everyone in the courtyard dropped to their knees. Greetings, Commandant. This was Cloud Tia, the mighty commandant of Wuchuan, the absolute highest military power in the region, and clearly, Cloud Owl's own father. Talk about family connections. This entire garrison ran on pure nepotism. Cloud Tia walked straight up to his terrified son, drew a dagger, and plunged it into his thigh without a word. Blood sprayed everywhere. Cloud Owl's entire face turned pale with shock, yet he didn't dare move, calling out, admitting he was wrong. Cloud Tia punched his son in the gut so hard, he flew 3 meters and crashed into the dirt, worrying that in the military, he must use rank. How many times had he told him? Did he understand what he had done? He just attacked a warrior who slew 9 Wuan cavalry. If this news spread, no soldier would ever risk their life for this garrison. Honestly, I expected another totally fake performance, exactly like Zhou Taishan did. But this was real, that dagger thrust, and it almost permanently crippled his very own son. No joke, Cloud Tia was definitely not acting, so I kept my guard high. Rebellion was already brewing deep inside me. Absolutely nothing could change that. Cloud Tia kept going, violently kicking his son's leg. The sickening sound of shattering bone echoed everywhere in the yard. His son screamed out, desperately clutching his leg. As he rolled, nobody stepped in. They were pretty used to this madness. Cloud Tia simply waved his hand. Strip this useless waste of his military rank. Reduce him to a mere commoner. Exile him to the countryside to heal up. Once recovered, he is forever banned from Wuchuan. He was dragged away, groaning miserably. I was just preparing to explain everything, when Cloud Tia suddenly faced his own guards. With a deadly, icy glare, you stood by and watched him abuse a hero without doing anything. No one dared breathe, cut a finger. Immediately, every guard in the yard drew their blades, and slammed them down onto their own hands. Without hesitation, bones snapped loud, as sharp, painful gasps filled the courtyard. I was the actual victim here. No one expected me to slice myself, but if they did, I would have grabbed Cloud Tia hostage right there. As the guards raised their bleeding hands, looked closely, most of them were already missing fingers. Some only had 8 fingers left, others had barely 4 left, struggling to hold a sword. This was how Cloud Tia ruled. Wuchuan's brutal, ruthless military culture just kept finding fresh ways to shock me. Finally, Cloud Tia looked right at me. What is your name, Lutu, sir? You seriously claim you killed all these Wuan riders? Yes, you can easily send men to verify. He smirked, saying he witnessed my moves earlier. Not bad, I slowly exhaled. I thank him for his fairness, but suddenly, a loud voice screeches from the front gate. Young Master Cloud, do not give him any military credit. Zhao Yibing bursts into the courtyard and instantly freezes. The second he spots me standing there, his entire face goes pale and he drops to his knees. Cloud Tia looks down at him like he is a bug. So you came to stop my son's reward? No, sir, I was only joking. Go home and tell your father yourself that you are grounded under house arrest for 1 year, and stripped of every single military title. Cold sweat pours down Zhao Yibing's face. He looks at the fresh blood on the ground, instantly putting 2 and 2 together. He literally crawls right out of the yard on his knees. Honestly, He is just lucky to survive. Cloud Tia slowly pulls out a dark wooden badge, neatly carved with the number 4. A squad leader token, but 1 rank above mine. Lu to you, for outstanding achievements in battle. Now you are promoted to corporal. You also get 50 sets of full military gear, 5 strong war horses, and 100 taels of silver. Thank you, Commander. Then he calls out 2 specific names, Sun Guang and Sun Meng, 2 of his guards. The men who just sliced their own fingers step forward. You 2 are now officially promoted to squad leaders, assigned directly under Lu Tu's command. Yes, sir. Cloud Tia simply waves his hand and leaves without another word. The remaining guards quickly wrap up their bloody, severed stumps with cloth, following him out, leaving me with the Sun brothers. These were the exact same guys who welcomed me at the gate. Honestly, they seem like pretty solid guys. I am counting on you both. The honor is ours, serving under a true hero like you. But their freshly cut fingers are still bleeding heavily. I quickly rip strips off my own clothes and begin wrapping their wounds myself. Sun Meng flinches back in total shock. Sir, please, I can do this myself. I just glare at him, holding his hand firm. You are my soldier now, stand still. He hesitated, but still let me work. I knew Cloud Tia had planted these guys to spy on me, but I was not worried. These men spent 3 long years in a brutal military, where absolutely nobody showed them any real warmth. So when their young commander knelt right down and wrapped up their wounds using his own cloth, something shifted deep behind their eyes. They were not used to being treated like humans. Looking closely at their hands, I noticed the cuts were pretty clean and precise, severed at the joint with almost surgical accuracy. These 2 were clearly expert swordsmen, and they showed absolutely zero hesitation in slicing themselves. That meant they knew what happened to soldiers who flinched. Their loyalty to Cloud Tia was built on pure terror. Not love, but terror can be replaced. A guard brought out the supplies, 100 silver taels, along with a cart loaded with leather armor. The craftsmanship was pretty basic, but for a brand new army, anything beats nothing. 5 war horses stood ready. I pinched off almost 2 taels of silver from an ingot, using my bare fingers, and handed it to the guard. Go buy yourself and the boys a decent drink. His eyes go wide, and honestly, that finger strength is insane, as much as the unexpected generosity. He pocketed the silver pretty smoothly. Everything is fully counted and verified, sir. I handed the horses over to the Sun brothers, and we headed right home. It took about an hour to reach Quishan village. Warm smoke rose from every chimney. Sun Ming just stares. How does every house have food? With nothing to hide. I used that silver from my first reward to buy grain. The local villagers dig trenches for me, and I pay them in actual food. The brothers exchange a look of sheer disbelief. Forget a tiny village, even inside Wuchuan City. Most people only ate once a day. 2 meals was a total luxury, yet here was this officer. He even spent his own reward money on fortifications, and actually paid his workers exactly as promised. It was truly beyond anything they had ever seen. The moment they rolled into the village, children and elders came running out, everyone shouting and waving with absolute joy. The squad leader is back, he smiled to himself. They did not know he was a corporal now. Before the cart even fully stopped, the village women rushed over to help and load everything into the main storehouse. Our squad leader is seriously incredible. He killed even more Wuhan riders today. With him protecting us, we finally have peaceful days. He is basically our entire sky. The Sun brothers could not believe their eyes. They had been stationed around Wuchuan for years, even patrolling right near Quishan village. The old Quishan used to be identical to every other miserable, rundown place. Neighbors literally fought each other with machetes over tiny scraps. Now, everyone was smiling, talking and helping, like a real community after just a few days under him. And the entire village had completely transformed. He handed the horses over to Waiting, telling him and Wu Peng to manage the war horses. They now had 13 captured Wuhan horses, plus these 5 new ones, so feed them well. Waiting's face lit up like a little kid's. He stroked the horse's head lovingly, promising to keep them fat and strong, sir. Sun Meng spoke up with a wide grin, telling them to stop calling him squad leader. It's corporal now. Everyone froze. Then cheers erupted. You know they had to celebrate. Jumping multiple ranks, of course he did. He took down over a dozen Wuhan riders. Corporal rank is honestly too low. He should be a commander living in a massive mansion. The Sun brothers knew it too. The villagers were not even exaggerating. With his incredible military record, he should have jumped 5 ranks at least. Anyone with real connections. I should have been made a deputy general. Instead, I got demoted to corporal with 2 babysitters watching me. But get this, when they stared, I was rolling up my sleeves, hauling heavy grain sacks. Working with the villagers, no heirs. They stepped up to help, but I stopped them. Sun Ming, Sun Kwang, do not lift anything, your fingers need to heal. They froze, totally confused. They honestly couldn't tell if I genuinely cared about them, or if this was all some calculated show for the crowd. Once all the hard work was finally finished, they dropped the bags. I brought them back home, and had Yushi fetch some healing garlic extract. Sun Kwang suddenly blurted out, "Aren't you that crippled lady from the market?" Sun Ming instantly smacked his younger brother on the head. "That is the corporal's wife. Watch your mouth." Yushi did not ask questions. She quietly handed over the medicine. I told the brothers to unwrap their stumps and apply it. "This will help you heal." I got them set up in an empty house. The family living there got wiped out during the raid, so there was room. It just happened to sit right next to our storehouse. I put them in charge of guarding all our supplies, armor, weapons, and especially grain. They just stared at me, struggling to speak. Then Sun Quan spoke, voice cracking. "Sir, we were sent here to spy on you. I know you know, yet you still bandaged our wounds, gave us medicine, and trusted us with the most vital things in the village. Aren't you afraid we'll just steal everything?" I smiled. "If I employ people, I trust them. If I cannot trust them, I do not use them. You are with me now, and that makes us brothers. What is the point of following me if there is no trust?" Their eyes went wide. "Thank you for believing in us. We will do our duty, and do not worry about reporting to Cloud Pavilion. Just tell him whatever you need to tell him. It's fine if you don't even care about that." I pat their shoulders. "If you don't report, he'll punish you again. Rest up tomorrow morning, and don't come to the pass with hands like that." I walk away, leaving them behind. Sun Quan tilts his head back, rubbing his eyes from the damn wind and dust. He mutters. Sun Ming's voice sounds pretty thick, "Brother. I think we finally found a leader worth following." Liu Yang and Liu approach me with their progress report on the trenches. After today's intense attack, everyone is digging with real, serious purpose. No more slacking off, sir. Is it actually true you're a corporal now? It is, but we're still quite short on people. Keep working hard, and someday, I'll make you both squad leaders with proper pay, and find you some good wives. Lulu suddenly pipes up. "I don't want some pretty wife. I want a fat one." I burst out laughing. "Kid, you've got absolutely excellent taste." I give them medicine for their wounds and send them off. Neon is currently holding down Sanchin village. Finally back home, I feel way more exhausted than the last 2 days combined. Man, that chainmail warrior was an absolute nightmare. Even with everything I had, it took all my strength just to bring him down. A sign my body's nowhere near peak condition. Yushi brings me hot meat soup and rubs my shoulders. She whispers she heard about today. It was far too dangerous. I pat her hand. Battle is always quite dangerous. I had it fully under control. I also heard how you collapsed from total exhaustion. My mother said this happened to my father once. He nearly died. I immediately tense up. She was totally right. I'd pushed this weak, underfed body past its absolute limit. But don't worry, she softly whispers, leaning close to my ear with blushing pink cheeks. My mother actually taught me a special bedroom technique. She says that whenever father came back home, completely wiped out after that massive fight, she used this unique method to restore my strength. I gently wrapped my arm around her waist. "Is that so?" Yushi blushed red, and quietly slipped right out of my embrace, heading off to prep some hot washing water. While she gently cleaned me up, I pulled 80 silver taels from my coat. The commandant gave me 100. I kept 20 for Liu Yang and Yi Yan. "The rest is all yours." Her eyes went wide. We brought home 230 taels that morning, and now 80 more. But get this, the money wasn't the shocker. It was the fact that the very first thing I did was hand them directly to her. She took the silver with glittering, happy eyes. "I do not need anything. I will keep it safe," gently kissing her forehead. "So, will you really do whatever I ask?" "Yes," she murmured. "I would like to try the bedroom technique of yours." "Wait, slow down." I scooped her up and carried her to bed. For the next 2 hours, I was a very dedicated student, and what I learned was far beyond anything I had ever imagined. Ancient secret knowledge is something else entirely. With sweet Yushi guiding me through it, my physical exhaustion melted completely away. We did not stop until the night watchman called out the third watch. before finally falling asleep tangled together. The next morning, I woke up early as always. And honestly, I felt incredible. Way more energy than yesterday, despite sleeping less. This was what traditional medicine actually meant, by the harmony of yin and yang. Believe it or not, it actually worked. After my usual Black Dragon 18 fists warm-up, I moved into the Song family's standing stance. Today, the progress was absolutely dramatic. I held the posture for 3 full incense sticks, before my burning legs finally gave out. Yesterday, I could barely manage one. That's a full hour of intense training. I felt stronger than ever. Liu Yang and Lu Hu showed up for duty. When they saw Yushi, they bowed stiffly. "Good morning, ma'am." She waved it off. "Call me sister-in-law." "Have you eaten yet?" "I made porridge." "Oh, we already ate." Liu Yang started, but I smacked his head. "Don't lie to me. You two have never eaten breakfast in your lives. Now go wash your hands and sit down." Lu Hu looked confused. "Why do we need to wash our hands to eat?" Liu Yang smacked him next. "If Big Brother says to wash, you wash." Yushi had only cooked enough for the 2 of us. She gave it all to the boys. Never seen anything like it. No sand, no dirt, and seasoned perfectly with a pinch of salt. They completely drained bowl after bowl until they just sat there, rubbing their happy bellies. Just look at the pure happiness on their faces. Yushi nudged me and whispered gently, "Weren't you going to give them their reward now?" "Almost forgot." I pulled out 20 tails. "Yesterday, you and Liu Yun worked together to kill a Wuhuan rider. Your bonus." But Liu Yang pushed it back. "Big Brother, that's just too much." My face hardened and I spoke firmly. "Take it. Kill enemies. You get paid. That's the rule." He accepted the money carefully with both hands. "I'll give half to Liu Yun. His situation is way worse than ours. We only have to feed ourselves. But he has got a sick little sister." Yushi and I shared a silent look. These boys were starving themselves. And yet, with the first real money they ever earned, they immediately wanted to split it with a comrade. Honestly, you cannot teach that kind of character. Just then, Sun Meng's voice called from outside. "Corporal, are you home?" He started to walk inside, but spotted Yushi and immediately backed right out. He apologized, not realizing his wife was inside. He decides to stay outside since Yushi knows he is leaving, and he asked Li Yang to stay behind for errands. Yushi needed some supplies from town, so he left with the Sun brothers. Sun Meng cleared his throat. "Sir, we have made our decision." Both brothers knelt before him. They grew up as poor orphans before joining the commandant's guard. That guard duty was their big break, but nobody ever treated them like human beings. "You are the very first to bandage our wounds, personally giving us real medicine with your own hands, and actually trusting us with something important. We truly want to follow you. Whatever you want us to report to the commandant, we will say exactly that and nothing more." Honestly, would you trust them if you were him? They might be acting, but either way, he had to play along, so he pulled them to their feet. "You are both older. No need for all this formality. We are just trying to survive." But Sun Guang stayed down. He knows our hero still has doubts. "But you saw how the commandant treats his people. Cutting fingers, breaking their bones. How could anyone truly follow a tyrant like that? We want to serve someone worth serving." Sun Meng nodded firmly. "We choose you, sir. From now on, we only report what you tell us to." He finally gave in. "Fine. Just protect both villages alongside everyone else. And stop calling me sir, just call me brother." "Big Brother," they said in unison. He literally just said they are both older, but they started kneeling again. It is a habit from years of harsh service. Kneeling first, thinking later. "No, you are our leader. You have to be our big brother." "Fine, Big Brother." "All right, now please get up, before the villagers start thinking he is forcing people to worship him. Give us some real action, Big Brother. A missing finger is not stopping us." The Sun brothers still had plenty of fight, so I put them on construction duty at Oxman Pass. They replaced the Liu brothers. Huting brought over 3 horses, and we rode out together along the road. Villagers heading down to the worksite welcomed me just like I was some major celebrity, cheering for the corporal, their young hero. One man even dreamed about me leading their forces north to completely smash the Wuhan. Another believed I could actually pull this off. After all, I had killed 8 riders single-handedly. The Sun brothers observed all of this very closely. They could easily see how loyal these people were to me. I caught them exchanging quite satisfied glances. You can bet they were glad they joined my side. I found Nian already working there, explaining the trench layout to a group of workers. I stood right behind him, listening closely. He explained how the corporal wants Wu Wang dead, To do that, we must dig these trenches 5 feet deeper, and pack the bottom with sharp wooden stakes. When their horses crash inside, the riders either die or get crippled. Spinning around, he found me smiling back. He panicked, sir. I was just rambling, but I clapped his shoulder. You are completely right, that is exactly my plan. Do it, and his face lit up. Clearly, nobody had ever encouraged him before. Honestly, you can see real talent in this kid. He just needed guidance, so I pointed at the trench. But what if some lucky Wuan rider survives this trap, and somehow escapes? To warn the others, right? Yun's eyes narrowed with deep hatred. Then we packed the bottom pretty tight with thin, sharp stakes, ensuring nobody who falls walks out whole. Since even chain mail cannot cover every inch of skin, and without their horses, those wounded men, trying to crawl back across the open wilderness, the wolves will finish them off before they even go a mile. I laughed, calling him an absolute genius. Isn't that just too cruel? Cruel. They literally slaughtered our villagers. They butcher completely helpless women and children. Whatever they inflict on us, we pay back tenfold. I wish I could dig these deep traps, right to the front door of their king. The workers instantly erupted. You can tell my words struck a massive chord. Literally everyone here had lost a loved one to the Wuhuan. Family, close friends, neighbors. They spent their entire lives just running and hiding, because the useless army never protected them. But they were never born cowards. They were proud men, fathers, sons, mothers, young boys, and they were completely done being hunted like beasts. I had not planned this, but my words planted a deep seed of revenge in every soul. Standing on that hillside, I pointed to a spot a mile out. We'll build 2 guard posts right there, keeping watch constantly. The second those Wuhuan riders are spotted, every single capable man from both villages grabs his weapons and rushes here. I do not care if we must use our teeth. We butcher every single last one of them. Yeah, kill them. 100 men raised their shovels and hoes, roaring together with bloodshot eyes, veins bulging. Even the Sun brothers got swept up in this. They only joined the army to feed themselves, but standing right among 100 completely fired up men, their blood boiled. I felt something ease up inside me. Yesterday, I fought entirely alone while everyone scattered. Today, they are finally ready to stand. I did not blame them for running before. Years of brutal oppression, from both the Wuhuan and their own corrupt officials, had taught these poor people to forget. They did have spines. Their heavy fists could do more than beat their wives. They could hold deadly weapons. I left the Sun brothers to go assist Na Yun. I looked out at the men digging with absolute fury, cursing the Wuwang with every single strike. It totally reminded me of my previous world. I had never lived through those early revolutionary years, when people had nothing but still built everything, with bare hands and a shared purpose. But I always really admired that spirit, and now it was playing out right before me. I was not setting my sights too high, one step at a time, but the top priority was food. So I ordered Nyan to set up to full meals daily for our workers. Huge portions, absolutely no rationing. Grain was not an issue. The greedy landlords' warehouses in Wuchang were completely stuffed with stockpiles. They'd rather let it rot than sell cheap. So as long as I had silver, food was endless. But check this out, the real strategy was already forming. This mountain pass was their only way through. From the north, once these walls were built, and we held this narrow choke point, the Wuhan forces would walk into a kill zone every single time they came. Next, I would select 50 top-tier workers and train them, using the advanced military methods of my past life, to forge them into elite soldiers. This pass was not just a defensive fort. It was literally a military merit farm. Every single Wallen meant a promotion, bringing silver and resources to grow even stronger. The math was beautiful. Over the next 2 weeks, I divided my time between supervising this construction and leading patrols across the entire region. I mapped out every single terrain within 50 miles. Soon, the fortifications were finished, deep trenches bristling with razor-sharp stakes. We built guard shacks a mile away for warning, and the first station nigh. Yun and the Sun brothers out there permanently. These workers had never had it so good. They got real grain every day, zero sand, to full meals, plus endless bread. A total miracle for starving people. This was absolute heaven, and nobody held back. I never once shorted their pay. But now that the trenches were finally finished, I felt the heavy anxiety spreading everywhere. 2 workers honestly summed it up over lunch. Once this job is over, do you think the corporal will still pay? Why would he with no work, no money, and my kids eat like horses? Without this grain, We are back to scraping by. I completely understood their fear, but I had absolutely no plans to let them sit idle. Over the last 2 weeks, I learned what made these Wuchuan people tick. That fierce frontier spirit everyone always talks about. It was just pure desperation. Not enough food, terrible soil, and endless wars. Plus corrupt officers bleeding them dry at every level. Morality is a luxury when your stomach is empty. But I had also discovered their strength. Whether young or old, man or woman, they were tough as iron. Feed them enough and they would easily outwork anyone. The men were basically born soldiers. Letting them go to waste without training felt criminal. During lunch, I clapped my hands for attention. The defensive walls are done. Only 5 soldiers will stay here permanently. Faces fell everywhere. The good times were over. Back to struggling. But I smiled. But nobody is going home. You are all staying, same pay. The whole place absolutely went wild. Men jumped up, dropping their food everywhere. The corporal is our savior. I would do anything for him, even fight the Wawan. So I split them into 2 groups. Half went west to cut timber. The other half would grab picks and build a road. A road? They had never heard of such a thing. The only real road in Wuchuan was built by the actual founding emperor, over 100 years ago, with zero maintenance. To them, roads just sort of happened. When enough people walked down the exact same path, I ordered them to dig out 4 flat tracks between Quishan and Songzhen villages, perfectly wide enough for our pushcarts to roll through, smoothly and quickly. A few smart workers got it instantly, absolutely brilliant. This would make moving supplies between villages so much faster. Others just shrug, unable to see how a flat road even mattered, since it did not grow grain afterward. I pulled Liu Yang aside. He had been lingering with something heavy on his mind. Big brother, we are almost out of grain. Your wife gave me 100 taels to buy more, but our stash only covers 3 more days. I waved it off. Do not worry. Someone is going to deliver silver to us very soon. Who? I just looked toward the trenches. He followed my gaze but did not understand. He thought even if the traps worked, they would only catch a few riders. Hardly worth the cost. He did not say it, but I could read his face. My logic was pretty simple. It had been a month since the winter solstice, the absolute coldest stretch of the year. If our own villages were starving, the Wuhuan out on the frozen steppe were even worse off. I had been visiting tea houses in the city to gather crucial intelligence. Other villages had all been raided recently, with the local army barely driving off those attacks through sheer numbers. But our 2 villages had been left completely alone. The Wuhuan king remembered losing 2 entire raiding parties to us, and was pretty wary, but they do not forgive. They do not forget. And this long silence is terrifying. The more devastating the next attack would be. I had to be ready. Over the next 2 days, I had the workers construct modern training equipment, including a packed earth exercise yard, with pull-up bars, parallel bars, and an archery range, all designed using modern military specifications from my previous life. The leftover timber was used for 7 or 8 new cabins for our garrison. The villagers stared at my strange training gear. Totally baffled, I gathered them all together. Does anyone here want to enlist? They answered right away, without hesitating. Never the regular army, no way. But under you, corporal. We are in, I told them straight. I don't need everyone. I only want the absolute best. If you can match what I do, you get full soldier's pay. 1 string of coins every month. I had Liu Yang light an incense stick as a timer. Then I demonstrated the test myself. 100-meter sprint, 20 wide grip pull-ups, -1 push-ups, then spin in place 10 times. Then grab a bow and hit a target at 50 paces, bullseye. By the time I finished, the stick was only 2/3 burned. Dead silence. Seriously, nobody expected me to be this fast, this strong, or this precise, especially landing that arrow after spinning. Honestly, that completely broke their brains. Anyone who can finish all of this before the stick burns out gets 10 pounds of millet. Hands shot up everywhere. Everyone was shouting at once, crowding toward me until I barked them into order. Quiet, if you want to be my soldier. Your very first lesson is discipline. Line up 1 by 1. A huge, dark-skinned man named Hu Ernie stepped up first. He was built like a bull, but surprisingly, he crushed 20 pull-ups despite his heavy weight. The remaining drills left him gasping, but he finished it all within the time limit, even managing to hit the target with his arrow. It was off-center, but I knew my standard was tough, especially for villagers who had spent their lives half-starved. I set the bar high deliberately. I wanted them to realize that joining my squad was not like digging ditches. This required actual, real ability. Only 20% passed, so I dismissed the rest. But I told them they could still train with my men. No upfront pay, but they could earn half a pound of grain daily by volunteering for night watch and patrol duty. That quieted the complaints. Any food was better than none this winter. I now had 27 men in total. Along with horses, I ordered mandatory daily training for all of them. No training, no food. They were split into 3 squads of 9. Liu Yang led Squad 1, Nia Yun led Squad 2. Sun Ming took Squad 3 on rotation. Daily physical training. Plus, I added horseback riding to their schedule. We captured 13 Wuhuan horses, and 5 more from the commandant. My men had to learn to ride, before we captured even more. Yes, sure, I understood the basics of ancient warfare, from my past life. Small skirmishes and massive army clashes alike. The core principle was always identical. Use your elite corps to smash right through enemy formations, break their lines, and victory comes incredibly cheap. How Zhang Liao's 800 riders crushed 100,000 at Shaoqun. How Li Shimin became a legend at Hula Pass. But this strategy needs a commander, leading from the front. Someone with enough personal power and presence that soldiers will follow him straight into death. I chose this mountain pass as our temporary base. Things were finally starting to click, but something had been nagging at me for days. The Wu Wang could attack at any moment, and that threat hung constantly over my head. If our border military were unified, I'd worry less. But Zhou Taishan was secretly trading supplies directly with the enemy, and I still didn't know if Commandant Cloud Tia was involved. I gave my squad such detailed instructions, because I planned to leave for a while. It took a few days to track down Zhou Taishan's smuggling route. Military bounties barely covered my expenses. Pathetic, but hitting a trader's supply line, far more profitable. I rode back into the village, only to be immediately met by panicking villagers, running toward me, yelling that soldiers were there to arrest me. Arrest me? They claimed I worked with bandits. They are at my house right now, harassing my wife. My blood instantly went ice cold, then hot. They were touching my wife. I kicked my horse into a full gallop toward home. I finally reached home, and what I saw made me freeze. My vision went red. A few villagers lay beaten on the ground. In my yard, a dozen armed thugs had Yushi completely surrounded, leering at her with absolutely disgusting grins. Lutu's wife is pretty, they sneered, never expecting someone quite this pretty. Since her husband threw away his military career to play bandit, she would die too. But if she was nice to them first, maybe they would let her live. The loudest thug never got to finish his next sentence. My blade drove straight through his chest. His smile froze as he desperately reached for a weapon. But I twisted the handle, cracking his ribs wide apart. I kicked his body down and stood there, sword dripping, glaring each of them down. Nobody move, I growled, blood splattering their faces, before they could even realize what happened. Their leader was a pale-faced man, pulling out a warrant for Lutu, accusing me of being a corporal who conspired with bandits. On Breast Mountain, by the commandant's orders, they were here to arrest me, husband. Yushi ran to me as I dismounted, asking if they hurt her. She shook her head. I came just in time as villagers arrived carrying hoes, axes, or anything sharp. They surrounded the thugs completely, but now the tables turned, and watch him desperately bluff. Defying the commandant is absolute treason. Asking if they were all rebels, my heart went ice cold. Yushi was the only real family I had left in this world. These bastards framed me, crossing my one absolute red line, and they dared to lay eyes on my wife, even though they never actually touched her. Just the attempt was unforgivable. I marched straight toward them, my knuckles turning white against my sword hilt. Their warrant had absolutely no official seal on it, meaningless paper, and then everything clicked. I had slaughtered everyone up on that mountain. No survivors, 0 witnesses. The only possible way they knew about our raid was if someone who climbed up with me snitched. A traitor among us, let that sink in. These guys were not real soldiers. No seal, no authority. I lunged straight at their leader, cleaving my blade right through his wooden spear, and directly into his ribs in a single flash. My body felt in the absolute best shape ever since arriving inside this crazy world. Those intense Song family exercises, actual food, salt, rest. These starving thugs did not stand a chance. Run, a ghost, someone shrieked. They scattered instantly, but our villagers already had them completely surrounded. The very same people who used to cower in fear. before anyone wearing a uniform just weeks ago. Not anymore, because I protected them. Gave them work, food. Honestly, let's be real here. My word held way more power than the emperor's. Because the emperor had never given them one grain of rice. The villagers swarmed in, raising their farm tools. Hoes cracked skulls. The thugs screamed, begging us to stop. We were only following orders. The commandant will never forgive this. I quietly watched the beating go on for a bit, before finally calling a halt. If you want to live, get on your knees now. They dropped instantly, groveling for mercy. Please, we are not real soldiers. I drove my blade straight through his neck. Not soldiers, then who sent you guys? I will drag you to the commandant, myself, and we will settle this face to face. That made them even more terrified. Everyone in Wichuan knew the commandant's notorious cruelty. Being handed to him was worse than actual death. The survivors crumbled instantly. We are Guani bandits. Word reached us you raided Breast Mountain, so we thought we could scare you with fake arrest warrants, just to shake you down. I drove my blade straight into his thigh. Did you really think some paper would fool me? We are sorry, we will never return. Please, let us go. The villagers roared, kill them all. I slowly pulled my blade out. This confirmed my suspicions. They were only petty, opportunistic bandits. But they knew about the Breast Mountain raid. From someone, yes, it was one of the 7 men who scaled that mountain alongside me. I called out their names, Ilongwu, Nioer, Lushishi, Huding. Step forward. Huding arrived moments later, weapons fully drawn, ready to fight, but I stopped them with one hand. I stared directly into Huding's eyes, dead on. We have got a traitor among us, and I need you to find out who. I called them out. The 4 men who went up Breast Mountain with me. No doubt about it, the traitor was right there. Honestly, I did not think the others had the spine to deal with bandits. The only one with real guts and connections had always been Huding. His face completely fell the second I spoke. He would not look at me while the others shook. Nioer stammered, Sir, I swear I would never leak anything to bandits. Sure, I tell small lies sometimes, but never about something like this. I watched everyone's subtle expressions, especially those captured bandits. I grabbed one, demanding answers. Who is your informant? Tell me and live. His eyes darted between Huiding and the rest. He hesitated too long. I slashed his throat and grabbed the next guy. Your leader must be pretty important. You would rather die than give him up. The second bandit glanced at Huiding, terrified. Huiding looked away before the man could speak. I killed him too, leaving everyone completely confused. Confusing, right? Why kill them before they can speak? I casually tossed the body aside and smiled coldly at the remaining captives. Too slow, you die. 2. That smile was way more terrifying than any blade. One of them completely broke down crying. Talk, boss. Do not blame me, stop. Huiding stepped forward, completely calm and steady. Do not kill him, these are my brothers. The whole village gasped. Huiding, the helpful, quiet and hard-working. Huiding was the leader of the Guanyin Mountain Bandits, the most feared gang within 50 miles, responsible for slaughtering dozens of innocent people. Legends said their boss was a massive bear of a man who could swallow babies whole. No one would expect this gentle, quiet hunter. I just stared at him with ice in my eyes. How did I treat you? He could not meet my gaze. Better than anyone else ever has. If I were not a bandit, I would have followed you loyally forever. So it was just pure greed. He threw his head back and laughed bitterly. Just greed? You make it sound so simple. You are a natural warrior. Military glory falls into your lap like picking fruit. You easily earn enough silver to feed everyone, with plenty to spare. But do you know how hard survival actually is for the rest of us? Do you really think we chose to be bandits? I slammed my foot right into his stomach. Stop feeding me that total garbage. Every bit of merit I ever earned, I fought and killed for with these hands. You couldn't survive, so you preyed on defenseless farmers instead, and you actually call that justified. He spat blood, grinning right at me. I don't blame you, but my brothers needed to survive. You're the wealthiest man for miles around. I knew I stood no chance against you in a fight, but I wasn't about to go down quietly either. Suddenly, his arm twitched, unleashing a hidden sleeve arrow. It shot for my head, almost invisible. Look out. Yushi noticed it first and threw herself right in front of me, trying to shield my body with her own. But Huiding had seriously underestimated my strength. I already knew he was the rat. Even before I called out his name, I let him get this close. Trust me, I was totally prepared. The second his shoulder twitched, I was already moving, and my blade flashed. Both of his hands crashed to the dirt. severed cleanly at the wrists, he shrieked. I absolutely despise you, Lutu. Why do you get such a gorgeous wife? I was the one who saw her first, but Zhou Taishan forced me to choose someone else. I couldn't risk drawing his attention, so I ended up with a hideous hag while you claimed her. You're too damn strong, 10 of me couldn't win. My only play was to trick you into chains and end you. Why aren't you scared of the military? How are you not afraid of anything? I ignored his useless raving. Pulling Yushi into my arms, I held her incredibly gently. You silly girl, why would you throw yourself in front of me? You really think something like that could hurt me? I was worried about you, so I kissed her forehead. Go inside and drink some water. I will need to wash the blood off later. You too, Lu. I am talking to you, are you even listening? What gives you the right to be this arrogant? He did not even know that the Breast Mountain bandits worked for Zhou Taishan. His scheme had nothing to do with the bigger conspiracy. He acted out of jealousy over Yushi and greed for my silver. Looking down on him, you can feel the tension, because I am not a coward like you. When I wanted a woman, I stood up in front of the whole town and claimed her, and I actually have the strength to back it up. Why would I ever be afraid? You think I am like you. You only have the nerve to swing your blade at your own people, but the second you see a Wuhan soldier, you crawl back inside your mother. His eyes turned bloodshot from pain, from rage, from everything. The villagers were screaming, kill him, kill the traitor. I walked behind him and addressed the crowd. Hua Teng became a bandit and murdered innocent people. Today, I execute him to bring justice for the dead. The sword swings, and his head rolls across the dirt. I was not done. I killed every remaining bandit. Then I turned to face the village. You have all seen what happens to traitors. If our two villages are not united like an iron wall, outsiders will keep coming to take what is ours. If I ever find out that anyone is leaking our business to outsiders, do not test me. Every single neck in the crowd pulled in a little tighter. Whatever petty schemes anyone might have been nursing died right there. I called out to Lahu, give out grain and medicine to every villager who stood up to protect my wife. Today, I reward every single villager who defended Yushi. 5 silver taels each, right there, in front of everyone. I wanted the entire village to witness exactly what loyalty gets you. Gotta reward your people openly and generously. That is how you guarantee others step up next time. But I did not head home. I pulled out my map, tracing Guanyin Mountain, 30 miles south. Bandits never send their entire force on a raid. That meant a lot more were still resting at their hideout, and they already knew I was coming. I had to wipe them out tonight, before they could prepare. I considered bringing Liu Yang and Liu Hu along, but my eyes settled on the Sun brothers instead. It was not that I lacked trust. Their position, however, was still pretty awkward. They were technically the commander's spies. Bringing them along to slaughter bandits would bind them to me through shared blood. After tonight, you know there is no turning back. Saddle the horses, you are with me. Their faces lit up. They understood this was the ultimate test, and they wanted it. Soon, we reached the mountain. We tied the horses and started climbing. Sun Guang offered to take the lead. Surprising me, this was not fake bravery. He truly meant it, so I let him. We quickly killed a lookout halfway up, and finally reached the summit, where a massive natural cave served as their base. I stopped Sun Meng from charging straight inside. Cave walls amplify every single noise, but my warning came a second too late. A gruff voice echoed out from inside. Number 9, you there? Sun Guang shot me an extremely apologetic look. I patted his shoulder, whispering softly, follow my lead. I quietly drew my bow, aiming right at the cave's bend, reading his shadow on the wall by torchlight. Then, his head poked out. My arrow punched straight through his skull. Before he saw a single thing, I rushed inside, switching to my sword as I rounded the corner. I ran right into 7 or 8 bandits, drinking around a roaring fire. For a split second, we just stare each other down. We are under attack before they even dropped their cups. Sun Main let an arrow fly, and the guy behind me took it chest deep. I didn't even look back, just charged straight in. These bandits had zero actual skill, just sloppy, brutal, drunken thugs. They went down like dry wheat under a scythe. The Sun brothers and I cleared the cave in minutes. We tossed the place. Sun Quan kicked through the wreckage in frustration. Big brother, these guys are totally pathetic. Not a single coin. They don't deserve to be called bandits. Honestly, I had expected some decent loot, considering their fierce reputation. Instead, just rags, broken weapons and worthless junk. Then Sun Quan spotted a letter on one corpse. He couldn't read, so he handed it over. I unfolded it and my blood instantly froze. It was addressed directly to Huiting, penned by someone with high authority. The writing was vague, urging him to act soon, but the signature read Huaishua Jiao. Huaishua was one of those other 6 border towns, a massive garrison city, just like this one. This Jiao had to be a high-ranking military officer, ambitious enough to plant an undercover agent this deep. Huiting had moved here for years ago, posing as a simple mountain hunter. He would disappear into the peaks for weeks on end. No one suspected, but right after he arrived, the terrifying bandit trouble on Guanyin Mountain suddenly started. But what was his actual mission, though? He clearly wasn't running some trade operation. Unlike Shou Taishan, these bandits here were completely dirt poor. Absolutely no gold or iron. No salt. Just living in a wet cave with completely broken weapons. This didn't match the smuggling pattern at all. I couldn't make sense of it, so I tucked it away. Some puzzles just need more pieces. Turning to the brothers, sorry guys, I dragged you out here for nothing. Sun Quan just flashed a rough grin. No need for formalities, big brother. Watching you fight is way better than a wild night out. Honestly, seeing you cut enemies down is pure art. I just laughed, slapping his sturdy arm. Next time the wounds show up, you're coming along. He thumped his chest, claiming he was no coward. Those beasts absolutely needed to die. Then, Sun Meng let out a curious gasp. He was examining the cave wall when something suddenly clicked. A hidden stone door slowly swung open. Look at this, a hidden staircase into the dark. We looked at each other, tense silence, then peered into the pitch black. I grabbed a torch, leading the way downstairs. I kept my sword ready in my other hand. The Sun brothers followed close behind me. Wet stone, dripping walls. There had to be a hot spring somewhere below. 30 steps down, we entered a sealed stone room. Inside was a wooden table and 2 chests. The table was covered in secret letters, all signed by Huaishua Jiao. Whatever Hu Ting was doing in this place, a powerful figure in the neighboring garrison city, was pulling his strings. The letters were frequent and highly deliberate. You can tell there's a much bigger plot unfolding here. Sun Meng carefully opened the chests. The room instantly exploded with silver light. Just 12 silver taels sitting there. Take it all, I commanded. Then I ran upstairs to find some cloth. The brothers wrapped the loot and hauled it out. Once we were finally clear, I pointed directly at the heavy bundles they carried. Whatever you're carrying is completely yours. They froze, exchanged a look, before dropping to one knee, calling me big brother. You're our brother for life now. I pulled them up, saying they fought beside me. We split our loot, simple as that. Sun Quan started crying. He sobbed that their mother raised them completely alone. Only she cared. No one else was ever this good. He sobbed harder, but I cannot take all this. Just 100 taels. I want to buy Su Wai's freedom from that pleasure house. Sun Ming nearly slapped him silly. Besides, she's taller than me. You want to marry her? Well, I like big women. They bring good fortune. Sun Ming coughed awkwardly. Actually, I only need 100 taels too. There is a girl at that very same place. I gave them 120 each. A man needs pocket money. Take the silver, or you're insulting me. Yes, big brother. I safely pocketed all the letters. Then I burned the cave with everything inside, and we quickly rode home before dark. Once back at my house, check this out, they dumped the remaining silver on the table. Yushu's eyes went wide, but when she looked at me and saw my calm face, she relaxed, trusting me completely. If I brought this home so openly, it meant the entire problem was handled. I grabbed 300 taels and shoved it at them, giving even more than I promised. Their eyes glistened once again. Oh, big brother, sister-in-law, we owe you everything. After they left, Yushi locked the silver in a new wooden chest and hung the key safely around her neck, patting it with a smile. Our savings are growing nicely. Husband. I pulled her close, kissing her until she was breathless. Aren't you going to ask why I gave the brothers so much? You always have your reasons. Besides, my father always used to say that spending silver on your soldiers' loyalty is the absolute best investment a leader can make. I love you more every single day. Heat the bath water tonight. I want to show you something new. She buried her blushing face in my chest, whispering to be gentle. We didn't eat until well after dark. I cooked some warm meat porridge and spoon-fed her. She was always completely wiped out afterward, and I actually felt pretty bad about that. She shyly asked how I knew so many techniques, so I mentioned once meeting this old beggar, who gave me some picture book. She almost choked on her porridge laughing. First thing the next morning, I prepared to head into town to order iron caltrops from the blacksmith, spiked metal traps to scatter on the roads. My defense plan was coming together. Just let the enemy come, wear them down on our walls, then hit them hard. I pushed the soldiers daily. Back in my past life, I was literally top-tier special forces. I knew there were no bad recruits, only terrible instructors, with enough food, plenty of meat and training. These guys would turn into real beasts. The Sun brothers shuffled out of their room, looking totally exhausted. I stared. Do not tell me. You two hit the pleasure quarters last night and brought girls back. They nodded sheepishly. Remember, I only gave them one room and a single massive bed. And yeah, you can guess the rest. Right then, two young ladies walked out. One heavy, one quite thin, sporting flushed cheeks and happy smiles. Bowing politely, they greeted the corporal. The very first thought in my mind, seeing these new wives of theirs, Fat Monk and Thin Monk, talk about finding their absolute perfect matches, so I congratulated them, welcomed the ladies and wished them well, then smacked both brothers to snap them out of it, out of their lovesick days. Wake up, we have work, I told them. It was time to report to the commandant's office. They were way overdue for a check-in anyway. The boys looked pretty awkward about the spying gig, but I just shrugged. Just keep quiet about the things you should. With that, they headed to the commandant's estate. While I headed to the busy market, I head straight to the blacksmith. Old Delu is totally asleep in his chair, so I poke him awake. I tell him I have a job. His eyes light up the second he hears business. He squeezes my arm with a massive grin. Look at you, big shot corporal now. I sketch the shape of iron caltrops in the dirt. Using a stick, he recognizes them instantly. Blacksmithing runs in his family for 3 generations. He has seen it all. 100. His abacus starts rattling. 100 taels. I hold up my hand. 50. My final offer. That won't even cover the raw iron. Watch this. I walk away. These caltrops do not need quality steel anyway. Just cheap melted iron, simply shaped into spikes to cripple enemy horses. 1 tael each is absolute robbery. He panics, yelling that I can't have the price. I walk. Fine. 50. Stopping, I demand 100 arrowheads too. He groans that I am bleeding him completely dry. I just stare silently until he sighs dramatically. He calls the arrowheads a gift for a local hero. Our whole town is pretty proud of you. I pay him right on the spot. Then I ask if he'd ever consider relocating. Moving his shop is my real goal. A dedicated village blacksmith is what I need. Someone who can forge weapons for my men. But he's not interested. No need to rush things, right? I'll revisit this later. I buy another 100 ready-made arrows. After filling my quiver, I wait for the Sun brothers. Once they arrive, I hand them out. That crazy shot Sun Meng made in the cave yesterday proves they are both pretty decent archers. Way better with bows than swords. I'll have them train the rest in archery from now on. Everything is coming together. Our defensive trenches are done. Spike pits are completely hidden under grass and snow, only waiting for those caltrops. Both of these villages would be locked down tight. Any Wuhan raiding force would ride straight into a total death trap. We barely made it past the gate when a crowd of excited villagers swarmed us. Corporal, the Wuhan came. Go look. My entire body tensed. Where? At the pass? The trenches, they are all dead. It is horrible. I blinked. Is it already over? The villagers were tripping over themselves. They were waving their arms wildly trying to tell the story, reenacting everything right after you left. We spotted smoke from the signal at Oxman Pass. Since you told us not to be cowards, we grabbed our heavy tools and ran over. And when we got there, you won't believe this. Those Wuhan riders were already dead. Horses and men were piled in the trenches. How many? I asked. Was anyone hurt? They shook their heads vigorously. Not a single person, not one arrow fired. Those savage animals just rode directly into the pit traps and died on spikes. Heaven itself is punishing them. Forget heaven, this is our corporal strategy. The traps did all the heavy work. He is the real miracle, but I had no time for flattery. I caught Yoshia smiling in the back of the crowd. Cracking my whip, I galloped toward Oxman Pass. From a distance, I could already spot Liu Yang and Naiyun, strutting around in brand new sheepskin coats, showing them off to all the villagers nearby. Our first big harvest without even lifting a finger. The second my boys saw me riding up, they ripped off those new coats and ran over. Like excited kids, I looked at the 4 enemy corpses, laid out neatly on the cold ground. I grinned. Nice work. Naiyun kept smiling. It was not us, it was your trenches. You seriously should have seen the terrified looks on their face when the muddy ground swallowed them. I have never seen the Wuhan look so pathetic. Liu Yong acted out the entire scene, mimicking their wild expressions. As they tumbled into the steak pits, everyone was laughing. I ordered them to keep those pits maintained, replace broken steaks, and fix the camouflage. And most importantly, never let a single wound rider escape alive. If even one got away, the secret of our traps would be totally blown. I pulled out 20 tails and handed one over to every single man present. This kill goes right on your record. Want grain instead? Exchange it back at the village. They were absolutely ecstatic. This was the first time anyone, besides me, had killed any Wuhan. Around here, nobody in Wuchuan would ever believe. I mean, who would believe farmers wiped out an armed Wuhan patrol without firing one arrow? I pointed right at their sheepskin coats. Wear them proudly. New rule. Whatever you take off a dead enemy is yours. Trench kills get split completely evenly. Nyan offered his coat to the night watch instead. The kid was younger than everyone else, but he honestly thought on a much bigger scale. I tossed him a badge. You are squad leader. Now this entire pass is your responsibility. He tried to refuse, saying he was not experienced enough. I shut that down fast. You killed a Wuhan soldier with your own hands 2 weeks ago. You have earned this. Pick up the burden. I threw another badge to Liu Yang. You are squad leader too. Nia Yin runs the pass. You handle patrols and security. Everything matters. It is all military merit. Both straightened right up. Thank you for your trust. I dispatched the Sun brothers to the city, with those for severed heads to collect our bounty. The men were buzzing. They knew I always distribute rewards fairly. Meanwhile, I had those dead Wuhan horses dragged out of our trenches. We butchered them right on the spot, bleeding and gutting them, buried the toxic livers. Then, we set up big boiling pots over the fires, 2 whole horses of meat. The other 2, I sliced into strips for smoking, curing on wooden racks for storage. Soon, the rich smell drifted across the hills. People flooded in from everywhere. My men had not seen meat in ages. Even the Quishan villagers only had that single deer I hunted weeks ago. The Songhan villagers had not tasted meat in nearly a year. Drooling kids crept up to me. Can we just smell it? We won't eat any. Just let us stand close. So I put on a stern face. No. And they flinched, hiding behind their parents. Go home and get your bowls. Everyone who helped dig trenches gets meat, smelling it without eating. What kind of absolute nonsense is that? Both villages immediately erupt in cheers. They shout that the corporal is like their father. I laugh, telling them I am not done living yet. Then Yushi arrived with a jug of my favorite strong liquor. Those 2 horses gave us nearly 1,000 pounds of meat. Easily 2 pounds of meat for everyone in both villages. But the smoked portions, I saved strictly for my soldiers. They trained hard every day. Without meat, they lacked the proper protein. The heavy training would break them down. Instead of building them up, I also saved plenty for the Sun brothers. They did not return until near dark. Suddenly, Nine spotted them and called out. They did not answer, so I ran over immediately. Something is wrong. Both are slumped over on their horses. They were barely conscious, with arrows in their backs. I pulled them down carefully. Sun Ming, what happened? Kwang answered him weakly. Bandits, strong ones. All the villagers with us are dead. They took the bounty, the money, the grain, everything. Please, save my brother first.